All right, how was the KFC? Very good, huh? Okay, and did you have enough? Okay, let's proceed.
Mr. Grosskreutz, I'm going to approach you for a second if I can. And I'm showing you what has been previously marked as Exhibit 69. You'd agree that the statement that I had previously showed you that you had given the police on the 26th, is that right?
Yes. So on this document, it's marked 2520. I don't know if that's reference to the time of the incident, but
Right.
this statement was given. It looks like 0900. I'm sorry, 9:46 a.m. of
Okay.
the following day.
So just so we're clear, it says on 8/25/20 at 11:30 p.m. this happened, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the only thing I want to make sure that you're comfortable saying is there's markings at various points on this paper. Is that right?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And the statement is 2 pages. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And can you tell me what those marks are on the left-hand side of that document?
What is being referred to? There are circles. It looks like 2 on the first page, 2 on the second page. And these are on the left-hand indent, and in those circles are my initials.
Okay. So you had at various points during that statement put your initials on it?
Correct. I wasn't able to, I'm right-hand dominant, so I wasn't able to write. So the officer that, I'm not sure which officer that was, but the officer was taking my verbal statement, transcribing it, and then throughout, I would initial either, so you can see here, there's the word approximately was crossed off. I signed that there's a correction there made.
Okay, so can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Where it says, I told multiple officers that I had dropped my firearm, right next to that you put your initials, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And to be fair, on the bottom of each one of these pages, it says, I have made the above statement without any threats or promises. It is my desire to state the true facts as to this incident. I have read the above statement and find it true and correct. Is that what it says?
That is what it says, yes.
Okay, and you signed that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Questions for you. I had asked you if you had any regrets about that evening, and that you had said that you did not, correct?
Correct.
And I had asked you if you know a person, Jacob Marshall, correct?
Yes.
And Jacob Marshall may not be today, but he was your roommate.
Yes.
And you had said that he had visited you in the hospital.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you what is marked as Exhibit 70. I'm not interested in the stuff on the right now. I'm just interested in the photograph. Okay? Is that a photograph of you and Mr. Marshall?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Does that appear to be taken after you had suffered the injury to your arm?
Yes.
Okay. And that's at a hospital. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had said you didn't have any regrets. Did you tell Mr. Marshall that your only regret was not killing the kid and hesitating to pull the gun before emptying the entire mag into him?
No, I never said that.
You didn't tell that to your roommate?
Objection, answer, Nancy.
Hold on.
You didn't tell that to Mr. Marshall?
No, I did not.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Judge, I would move 69 and 70.
Any objection?
I didn't realize you guys can hear me.
You can do it after if you want.
Your Honor, can we talk about those 2 exhibits afterwards? I do have objection to both of them.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Grosskreutz, I just have a few follow-up questions here. At one point in the video that was played for you by the defense, you referred to the defendant as a boogaloo boy. What did you mean by that?
I don't recall if I was referring specifically to the defendant. I think a more accurate statement would be the group of armed individuals, predominantly white males with AR-15s, in, generally speaking, some sort of, we'll say, paramilitary attire. And what I mean by that is camel clothes, body armor, chest rigs, helmets, things of that nature.
Is it fair to say, Mr. Grosskreutz, that no matter what you tell us or remember, everything you did that night's on video or photographed, correct?
That is true.
I want to play a little bit of Exhibit 57. Can we go to the 31-minute mark, please? 31 minute. This was a portion of the exhibit that was played for you on cross-examination, and I just want to go back to that for a moment. Can we play from there, please?
Looks like the Boogaloo boys, the good old boys rolling up. Right there. Two right there. Yo, we got our own medics. You're good. You can go home.
The voice that's heard there saying, "We got our own medics, you can go home." That's your voice, right?
Yes, it is.
Why did you say that?
It was my interpretation throughout the events of August 25th that these armed individuals, whether they were Boogaloo Boys, Proud Boys, etc., all had a, we'll say, a homogeneous appearance. Again, meaning the rifles, the body armor, and what I had inferred throughout the events of that night, that these groups of people weren't received very friendly towards other demonstrators, and in specifically to reference the defendant, it was also my interpretation that the defendant lacked the necessary experience, potentially the necessary knowledge to adequately fulfill his self-proclaimed role as a medic.
Can we now go to the 57-minute and 36-second mark in this video, please?
On your property. That's why you got problems already with people.
Here's the hothead here.
I know you are, but like, they got their own medics.
You were asked a question about the defendant's reaction at that very moment in time when he was told by someone, "Don't go out in the street, stay on your property." And you were asked if the defendant reacted in any certain way. Do you know if he came and spoke with anyone about that comment at that moment in time?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, can we go to the 1 hour, 17 minute, and 10-second mark in this exhibit, please?
That sounded like gunshots. It sounds like multiple gunshots. People are scattering. Now this is southbound on Sheridan. This is, I was just at 60th. Looks like they even set up a recliner. Oh, 110%, bro.
Yeah, dude.
100.
Do you hear what the crowd is saying at that point?
I do.
And what were they saying?
Sounds like they're yelling medic
Is
repeatedly.
that what caused you to start running?
Yes, it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Shots.
Why you shoot him?
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody? Who shot? Who shot?
Go back 10 seconds and play that again, please.
Hey, what are you doing? You shot somebody? Who shot? Who shot?
Is it fair to say, Mr. Grosskreutz, that what was just played on the screen is the only words exchanged between you and the defendant after the defendant killed Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes.
And you've already explained what you heard at that time. We've already heard the video. Was there ever a time in which the defendant said someone pulled a gun on him?
In hindsight, no.
In your statement the next morning, you told the police you'd heard the words, something to the effect of, he pulled a gun on me, from the defendant. Is that right?
Correct.
With the benefit of hindsight, we can see that never happened, correct?
Correct.
At the time you gave the statement to the police the following morning, how long had you been awake?
A couple hours, no more.
After surgery.
After surgery, yes.
And before surgery, you'd been awake all day Tuesday, right?
Yes.
And in the time period between you were shot by the defendant and the time you spoke to the police officers, did you even have possession of your phone?
No, I did not.
Had you watched this Facebook live stream?
No, I had not.
Can we continue that video now, please?
Stop him!
Hey, stop him!
Stop him! Shoot someone! Get his eyes!
Grosskreutz, we can still hear audio, but there's no video coming from your live stream. Do you know why that is at this particular moment in time?
I believe it's because I dropped my phone after being shot by the defendant.
To the best of your knowledge, did the audio that we just capture, or watch rather, did that capture everything that you said when you are, after you talked to the defendant and had that little exchange until you got shot?
Yes.
At any point in there, did you say anything about you're going to kill the defendant, you're going to shoot the defendant, make any threats to the defendant of any kind?
No.
Can we please pull up exhibit number 5? Let's put those down for a second. Let me just approach for a second. While we're getting ready for Exhibit 5, let me just ask, may I approach, Your Honor? Mr. Grosskreutz, the defense has shown you a photograph which has been marked as Exhibit number 65. I'm just going to hold that for you. Does this show you with your hands raised before the defendant shoots you?
Yes.
Okay. And I think this has been on the TV screen, but I'll just show the jury. Are you pointing your gun at the defendant here?
No, I'm not.
Is this right before he does the re-racking of the gun?
Yes, it is.
And then exhibit number 66, this is the photograph that shows you moving towards the defendant after he re-racks the gun. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
Now, you were asked if you are pointing your gun at the defendant in this picture and also in exhibit number 67. Do you remember being asked those questions?
I do.
At any point during that encounter, did you intentionally point your firearm at the defendant?
No, I did not.
Can we play Exhibit 5, please? At this point in the video, there are people that are running in the same direction as the defendant. Are you even on screen yet?
I don't see myself on screen, no.
All right, let's keep going. The person that attempts to kick the defendant has flown over the defendant. Mr. Huber is approaching the defendant. Are you even on screen yet?
No, I'm not.
All right, let's continue. Now, at this moment in time, you are on the screen, and it appears that you're sort of crouching, you know, like crouching down as if what? What were you thinking at that moment? Why were you doing that?
First, yes, that is me on the screen crouching, and it was reactionary instinct, I guess is a good way to put it, and the best way that I could describe that is, one, the noise from the shot. I mean, it's a very large caliber firearm, and I think that in of itself probably startled me. But then my immediate next thought was I could be shot next.
If your intent was to shoot the defendant with your Glock pistol, would you have gotten that close to him?
That was my intent? No.
If that was your intent, you wouldn't have done that.
Exactly. Right, correct.
Let's keep going for just a second, please. Would you mind, if you can, standing up and demonstrating to the jury how your body is positioned in this still?
So if,
A microphone?
We got your microphone.
We'll give you the microphone, and if you could just step in front of the jury there, I'd like you to demonstrate this for us, if you could. All right. Might have to hold it really close.
so in this still, if the defendant is right here in front of me on the ground, this is my pistol that I had in my hand, my cell phone. My body is bladed towards the defendant. I have her cell phone in my left hand, microphone or pistol in my right. My body is bladed with my left hand, left arm, towards the defendant's firearm, with then my pistol in a similar angle I'm about to show you.
When you were after all this was said and done, was there any impact or anything like that on your left arm from that gunshot?
Yes, there was.
What was that?
It was determined to be a muzzle burn.
From its proximity to the defendant's gun?
So a little more context on that. When a bullet is fired, there are gases that are expected.
Judge, I'm going to object.
That's fine. We'll move on. You can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for doing that. At that moment in time, right before you got shot by the defendant, did you feel there was an imminent danger that the defendant was going to kill you?
Yes, absolutely.
When you were just demonstrating to us the way your right hand was holding the gun, however it was angled, my question for you is that the way you hold and point a gun when you're going to shoot it?
No.
I have no further questions.
So, Mr. Grosskreutz, you watched the video that Mr. Binger played when Mr. Rittenhouse was walking past you, and you had said something along the lines of, "No medics are needed here, we don't need you," right?
Yes.
Okay. And you were saying that, oh, here comes some Boogaloo boys. You've never met Mr. Rittenhouse before, have you?
No, I have not.
You had no idea who he was, any affiliation with any group, nothing, right?
No.
You were just spouting off guessing. Yes?
I was making an inference. Yes.
With no information.
Yes.
And Mr. Binger asked you if you ever threatened verbally with words Mr. Rittenhouse. Do you remember him asking you that?
I do.
And your answer was he did not.
Yes.
You'd agree people don't have to use words to threaten other people. They can do it by their actions, correct?
Yes.
Like running after them down the street with a loaded firearm, right?
Yes.
Like approaching them, loading their foot and moving their gun forward. while the person's on their butt sitting there, right? Those are nonverbal things that can be used to show aggression, correct?
Yes.
Now, you had been asked by Mr. Binger, and you had shown a demonstration of this blading maneuver, as you call it, and I'll take your word on that. Can you bring up 67? So, now, you can talk about what your mental intention was. You'd agree what everybody's looking at is you pointing a gun at a person's head, right?
As well as the defendant pointing his firearm at me.
Absolutely. But you are, by your own admission, pointing a pistol from less than 3 feet away at his head. Agreed?
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree that that gun is pointed in the direction of Mr. Rittenhouse's head? You don't agree with that?
In the direction, yes, but directly, no.
You didn't tell him what you were doing, right?
I don't have time to.
Well, as you're running, you didn't say anything, right? You're just chasing him down. You never say anything.
It would have been hard to communicate that over gunfire.
My question to you is, you never said a word to him other than approach him with your gun out from 3 feet away, right?
Yes.
I have nothing else.
When you asked the defendant if he'd shot anyone, he lied to you, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And even though you've been asked questions about what he said at various times or things like that, did he make threats to anything like that, to people, anything like that, you construed his actions as threatening, didn't you?
Based off of witnessing the first 2 shots with Jump Kick Man, the third shot that killed Anthony Huber, yes.
Thank you.
I have one question. He didn't lie to you, right? When you had contact with him, he didn't lie to you, did he?
Yes, he did.
How did he lie to you?
After having asked him who was shot, and then him saying, I'm going to the police, which we know after the fact, and then saying, I didn't do anything.
So it's your testimony today that you heard. Now, to be fair, your first interview that you signed, you said that he told you, I'm working with the police, right?
I'm going to object. This is beyond the scope of the direct.
Right?
That is what I thought I heard in the moment, yes.
Okay, so you weren't telling the correct statement, correct?
Can you,
Yeah. You said that Mr. Rittenhouse lied to you.
yes.
Your initial statement to the police was, he told me I'm working with the police. You know that's not true.
After the fact, yes.
Okay. So what is on tape is he said, I'm going to the police, right?
Yes.
You're not saying that's not true.
No, I'm not.
Nothing else.
You, Mr. Townsend.
Say we'll call Heather Williams to the stand.
Stand, please. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Could you please state your name and spell it for the benefit of the court reporter?
First name is Heather, Heather. Last name is Williams, Williams.
And where are you employed?
The Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory, located in Milwaukee.
And what is your current position at the crime laboratory in Milwaukee?
I am a firearms and tool mark examiner.
And how long have you been employed with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab as a firearms tool mark examiner?
A little over 5.5 years.
And what does that mean to be a firearms or tool mark examiner?
As a firearms and tool mark examiner, I conduct examinations of firearms and firearms related evidence, such as fired cartridge cases and fired bullets.
And is there any specialized education or training that you have done pertaining to your job as a firearms or tool mark examiner?
Yes, I first hold a Bachelor's of Science degree in Law Enforcement and Justice Administration with a minor in Forensic Science that included a 525-hour internship at the DuPage County Forensic Science Center. I also completed the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory Firearms and Tool Mark Examiner Training Program. It's an apprentice-type training program, much like an electrician or a plumber, where you get both hands-on and classroom-like instruction.
And what exactly is firearms identification?
Firearms identification is the comparison analysis of fired evidence, compares bullets to barrels and cartridge cases to firearms.
And what process is used when examining a firearm that is submitted to your section?
One of the first tasks that we perform when a firearm is submitted to the firearms section is called a function test. The purpose of the function test is to first make sure that the firearm is a functional firearm and that it is also safe to test fire. During that function test, I'll check the condition of the firearm along with all safeties that are associated with that firearm.
And then what do you do next with when examining that firearm?
Once I've determined that that firearm is safe to test fire, I will test fire the firearm. This is done to make sure that the firearm is working properly and the way that the manufacturer intended for it to work, and also instances in which we have fired evidence. Those test fired bullets and cartridge cases that are produced are then compared to that fired evidence to see if they were or were not fired in the submitted firearm.
And did you become involved in a case in your professional capacity regarding Kyle Rittenhouse, Joseph Rosenbaum, and Anthony Huber?
Yes, I was.
And how did you become involved with that case?
I was assigned to work that laboratory case.
I'd like to show you what has been previously marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 28. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do. I recognize that as the firearm that I analyzed for this specific case. How I recognize that is on the firearm in silver marker, I have indicated that laboratory case number associated with the case, the item designation of that item, my initials, and the date that that was examined.
So is it my understanding that you would have actually examined this exact firearm and fired it?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I think that's good. Thank you. So what do you use to test fire it with?
We're going to use ammunition that is part of our reference collection. When we choose the ammunition for our test fires, we try to choose it as close to the fired evidence that's submitted to that case.
What is a cartridge?
A cartridge is unfired ammunition that's going to consist of 4 components. You'll have the actual cartridge case, you'll have the primer, you'll have the propellant or gunpowder, and then you'll have the projectile or bullet.
So what is a cartridge case?
A cartridge case is a portion of a fired cartridge that is left over after it's been fired in a firearm. You may have commonly heard it referred to as brass.
And how do you determine if cartridge cases were fired in the same firearm?
You're going to look at markings that are transferred onto the fired cartridge cases during the firing process. Those are the markings that we look at to determine if they were or were not fired in the same firearm. And then instances when we have a firearm, we're able to determine if they were or were not fired in a specific firearm.
So what's the difference between a cartridge and a bullet?
A cartridge, like I said, is going to be the full unfired ammunition. So it's going to be those 4 components. A bullet is just one of those 4 components. So it's the projectile portion that you'll see on an unfired cartridge.
So what is a fired bullet?
A fired bullet is going to be the bullet that is expelled through the barrel of a firearm. It's going to have impressions that are going to be left on that from the rifling or that spiral pattern that's going to be within that bore of the barrel.
So how can you determine if bullets were fired in the same firearm?
You're going to look at those rifling impressions that are left on a fired bullet from the barrel that it's been fired through.
Is your crime lab accredited?
Yes, we are.
And who accredits your crime lab?
We are accredited through ANAB, ANAB. It stands for the American National Association Standards National Accreditation Board.
And are there any quality controls or procedures that are used, particularly in your discipline at your crime lab?
Yes, in the firearms section, we have a 3-step quality control procedure. The first step is called the verification process. This is when any type of identification, elimination, or inconclusive results of fired evidence is then looked at by a second qualified examiner in the section. Once that verification process has been completed, there is then a peer review process in which all notes and reports are looked at to make sure everything's clear, complete, and accurate. That last step is going to be administrative review. That is going to be when a supervisor will once again go through all reports and notes to make sure everything is clear, complete, and accurate before the report is submitted to the submitting agency.
I'll let you as marked as State's Exhibit 72. Do you recognize that?
I do. This is the report that I issued for this specific case. I know that based upon the laboratory case number, as well as it has my name as well as my signature, and then it also has information on the second page with my initials showing that I did complete both of these pages of the report.
Is that a true and accurate copy of the report that you issued in this case?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to move Exhibit 72 into evidence.
I don't have an objection.
Let's see, is marked as State's Exhibit 71. Can you please explain what this is?
This is one of the fired cartridge cases that I analyzed for this specific case. I can tell that based upon the laboratory sticker, the yellow sticker here. This has the laboratory case number associated with this case, the item designation, as well as my initials and date that I took this into my custody. I also have the information on the additional packaging for this specific item, and then we also have that information on the actual cartridge case itself.
So which was the bullet that was fired allegedly by the defendant? Where would that be in that packet?
This is just going to contain one of the fired cartridge cases. So this is a portion of a cartridge that was fired. So this is the portion that is ejected from the firearm.
So that the thing in the top of that threefold, that is what was presented to you as an already fired cartridge. That's not one that you fired.
Correct, yes. This is a piece of submitted evidence for this specific case.
So what kind of, is that a true and accurate copy of how you would have packaged up that particular cartridge casing and all the other elements in Exhibit 71?
Yes, I know that this is how I package this piece of evidence because at each one of the heat sealed seals, it's going to have my initials as well as the date that I actually sealed this piece of evidence.
I'd like to move Exhibit 71 into evidence.
Objection? Proceed.
So after you test fire the weapon, the gun that we saw, then what happens next in your analysis?
So what I will do then is I will compare those test-fired cartridge cases to the fired evidence cartridge cases for this specific case. I do that by using what is called a comparison microscope. These are two microscopes that are then connected by an optical bridge. It allows myself as an examiner to look at two objects simultaneously side by side. That way I'm able to see the markings that are transferred from the firearm during that firing process on the cartridge cases to look to see if the submitted evidence was or was not fired in the submitted firearm.
So what did you do in this particular case?
In this particular case, there were 8 fired cartridge cases that were submitted. Each one of those 8 fired cartridge cases were then compared to the test fire cartridge cases that I produced so that I could be able to determine if they were or were not fired in the submitted firearm.
So you were submitted 8 of the, if you hold up Exhibit 71 briefly, you were given 8 of those cartridges on top?
Yes, 8 fired cartridge cases, just like this one here, was submitted for this specific case and analyzed.
And did you find that all 8 of those cartridges were fired through the weapon that Detective Antaramian showed you?
Yes, I was able to determine that the 8 fired cartridge cases submitted in this case was fired in the submitted firearm.
And that was by comparing each one to the test-fired projectiles that you fired?
Correct, yes.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Cross-examine.
Well, thank you.
You may step down, ma'am.
Stand call Officer Jason Krieger to the stand.
Testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may be seated.
Pass that over to Sir, can you please state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Jason Krieger. It's JASONKRUEGER.
And how are you employed?
With the City of Kenosha Police Department.
How long have you been on the City of Kenosha Police Department?
Approximately 2 years and 11 months.
And were you working on August 25th, 2020?
I was.
And were you working with an officer, Pep Moretti, on that date?
Yes.
Had you been working in the previous days during the civil unrest that was occurring in Kenosha?
Yes.
And on August 25th, what was your assignment, your general assignment with your partner, Officer Moretti?
So on that date and time, we were assigned to second shift patrol. We were patrolling the downtown area as well as handling calls that popped up throughout the city, anything in progress.
So is it fair to say you were focused downtown, but if there was a reason to go to another part of the city for a domestic violence or a burglary, you would still respond to that call?
Yes.
Is that different than how let's say the night before was in your duties?
I believe that throughout most of the time that was kind of the same. We were heading to in-progress calls, focusing on the downtown area to handle any incidents that arise.
Now, on the night of August 25th, at any point were you ever asked to respond to a potential shooting?
I do recall going to a shooting. We were just right in the area. I'm not 100% sure if we were dispatched to that call or not.
So, but at some point you and Officer Moretti went in the direction of some shots?
Yes.
And do you recall how you went about going to that location?
Yes, so we were in the area of 60th Street and between the 12 and 1300 block on a other call. I believe it was a fire. I heard the gunshots coming just southeast of us. I looked at Officer Moretti, and we decided at that point we were going to head to that since it seemed in progress.
Now, in your training, what are you trained to do if there is, let's say, a potential active shooter situation?
Our number one focus is to stop the killing or to make the scene secure, eliminate any active threats.
So with that in mind, what, if anything, did you do?
When we approached the scene, we had approached slowly just to try to attempt to gain any visual information that we could see. We had just been with a few other squads, other armored vehicles in the area, so we were assuming they were behind us. And we approached the scene very slowly to determine if we could at least get a visual on the any threats that we could see. We were hearing gunshots, we just couldn't see where they were coming from at that point.
Did anyone approach your vehicle?
Yes.
Who approached your vehicle?
There was a younger male. He was dressed in a t-shirt and I believe cargo shorts, and he was carrying an AR-15 style assault rifle, and he had his hands raised, and I believe he was carrying a medic bag as well.
Did you hear anything that the crowd was shouting in relation to this individual?
I did not hear any specific phrases. There was just a lot of noise, a lot of background noise, and in my mind, I was more focused on hearing the gunshots and trying to figure out where they were coming from. I didn't necessarily hear any specific words the crowd was shouting toward me.
Do you, at one point, I'm going to represent you, there's a video that shows you getting out of the squad car and running to the trunk. Do you have any idea why you did that?
A lot of my equipment I use on duty is stored in the trunk. Gas masks, vests, things like that. If I would have retrieved something from the trunk, it would have been to keep me safe on the scene if there was an active shooter. I do not recall the exact item.
By vest, do you mean like a bulletproof vest?
Yes.
Were you already wearing a bulletproof vest?
I do not recall what vest I was wearing, but I had my steel plate carrier with me. The vest I'm currently wearing right now is not able to prevent a rifle round going through, but the steel plate carrier that I had at that time would have been able to stop anything up to a round coming from a rifle.
So the vest you're wearing now, is that sort of the standard everyday vest that you would wear?
Yes.
And a bullet fired from an AR-15 like the one the defendant had, your vest would not stop it at all?
It's not rated for it. I've never attempted to do it, but I do not believe it would.
And how about your squad car? Is your squad car armored in any way that would prevent rifle rounds from penetrating it?
To my knowledge, no.
So what do you do as this person is approaching you on the street?
As I watched him approach, I was giving him verbal commands to keep away from my squad. I did not want anybody coming up directly to my squad that could be a potential threat. So we were giving him verbal commands just to stay back. I had also grabbed my pepper spray out of my vest and was going to use it if the individual continued to approach the car.
Why did you see him as a threat?
I never met him before. He had a rifle. Just given the situation at hand, there was a lot of circumstances where I just did not want some individual coming up to my squad car in that scene with there's gunshots still going off that I didn't necessarily know.
You said his hands were up, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Did you feel like he was surrendering to you?
No.
Why not?
Throughout the past few days, we've come across a lot of individuals who are armed, and the first thing they do is put their hands up to signal that they don't mean any threat to us. It doesn't mean that they were surrendering, it just means that they just wanted us to see their hands. Hands are the most, they typically indicate if a threat is going to be present. So if we can see their hands, we generally know there's no threat there.
So you indicated that you grabbed your OC spray or pepper spray. What happened next?
The individual approaching our car was not responding to my verbal commands. So I checked the OC can, made sure it was able to discharge the spray, and I pointed it at the individual, and I discharged a stream of OC spray towards direction when he would not listen to my commands.
At that point, how close was he to and you were in the passenger side?
Yes.
At that point, how close was he to your passenger side door?
I believe he was within about 5 feet.
Do you know if the spray hit him or not?
I do not recall.
Did the spray have the desired effect of him getting away from the vehicle?
Yes, he ended up walking away from me.
So once he left the area of your vehicle, what happened next?
I began to see other squad cars and armored vehicles coming to the area. I believe I took up a position on the east side of the road towards the parking lot and just kind of held it there to attempt to gain eyes as more officers came on scene. Throughout that time, I just tried securing the scene as best as possible, trying to gather as much information as possible about where the shots were coming from, who was firing them, and who the suspect was.
What, if anything, happened next?
We were approached by one of the mutual aid tactical teams who informed us that they had an individual with a gunshot wound to the arm. I believe that individual was Mr. Grosskreutz, and they did not know how to access the hospital. Since I was familiar with the area, Officer Moretti and I got into our squad car, and we escorted that tactical vehicle to the east side of the Freighter South Hospital and got Mr. Grosskreutz into the ER.
Now, the tactical vehicle you mentioned, is that what some people commonly refer to as like a Bearcat or an MRAP or something like that?
Yes.
So then you accompanied that to the hospital, and it contained Mr. Grosskreutz, who had been injured.
Yes.
Now, at the hospital, what happened? What did you observe?
So we got him into the hospital. I believe he went back to the ER. I stayed in the lobby. I was approached by another individual, Richard McGinnis, who kind of talked to me about that. He gave me information that he believed that he had the suspect on video just prior to the shooting. So I talked to him briefly, obtained the cell phone, and obtained the individual's ID card.
And then did you have him get interviewed by someone at in your department?
Yes, I passed all that information along to the Detective Bureau. I believe it was Sergeant DeWitt.
Now, at the hospital, when you were there with Officer Moretti, did you have any interaction with Joseph Rosenbaum, who at that point had deceased?
I believe that I helped Officer Moretti process and collect the evidence from one of the deceased. I do not recall which victim it was.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, officer.
Good afternoon.
So I don't have a whole lot of questions for you, but so if I could, and we've heard Officer Moretti testify. Okay, so do you hear what you believe to be rifle rounds around 11:50 or so on the 25th?
I heard gunshot rounds. I could not tell if they were handgun or rifle rounds.
Okay, so the type of firearm that had been discharged at that point, it was difficult for you to make out.
Yes.
But you knew that there'd been a discharge of firearms. You heard that much.
Yes.
So, do you recall seeing a person that you now know to be Mr. Rittenhouse walking toward your squad car?
Yes.
Okay, and to be fair, he has his hands like this, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I understand that you said that, tell me if I'm right, throughout that evening, people maybe who had firearms, when they saw you, they put their hands up, so you knew that they weren't a threat to you.
Yes.
This is also, to be fair, a way that someone could surrender.
Yes, it could.
Okay. And again, don't take this as being critical. I'm not trying to be that way. But as he's walking toward you, he doesn't have at that point his hands on his gun, but he's just walking toward your vehicle, right?
Yes.
And I understand your concern, but as he's getting closer to you, after knowing that a shot or shots had just been fired, I know there's a lot going on, but were you interested in finding out if he had any information?
I was.
Okay. And when he starts coming to the side, he's coming to your side, right?
Yes.
Do you hear him like say anything to you?
The only thing I can remember him saying was something about a shooting. That there was no other verbal indication from him coming directly saying it was me. It was just something about a shooting.
Okay. And you had just heard shots fired.
Yes.
This person's walking to you with his hands up and says something about a shooting, right?
I mean, his exact words were not something about a shooting,
No.
but
Fair enough. He says something. Included in that something is the word shooting.
yes.
And so I understand that we've seen the video, you pull out your OC spray, and after giving him a command, you spray him with the spray, right?
Yes.
Do you see Mr. McGinnis? You had mentioned that you see Mr. McGinnis at the hospital. He shows you the video?
Yes.
Do you say to yourself, that's the guy that's walking with his hands up that I just saw?
I did recognize the individual from the video, and into my mind, I believed he looked familiar.
Okay, and again, so do you tell anybody at that point, like, look, I'm putting these together, the guy that had his hands up, that's the guy we're probably looking for?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I do have two other questions. As he's walking up to you, do you ever ask him, and I understand it's a chaotic situation, do you ever ask him for identification?
No.
Do you ever ask him or do anything with the fact that he's possessing an AR-15?
No.
No, I have no other questions. Thank you, sir.
Were there other people, not necessarily in front of your vehicle, but around the area in addition to Mr. Rittenhouse?
I do not recall.
Were other people trying to give you information regarding a shooting or a potential shooter or anything like that?
There was a lot of voices shouting. Nobody directly came up to my squad car window like Mr. Rittenhouse did, but there was people after he had left the side of my squad car as I got out of the squad who did give me information about potential suspects as well.
Now, when you and Officer Murray are trying to get down to the scene of the active shooter, what is your primary goal?
Stop the killing, stop any threat.
Is that consistent with getting identification and speaking to an individual approaching your vehicle?
No.
Thank you.
Right. Across, I guess. You may step down.
The state calls Kristen Harris to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
Could you state your name and spell your first and last name for the record?
Yeah, my name's Kristan Harris, Kristan, last name Harris, Harris.
How are you currently employed?
Basically, I've been furloughed, but I've been pursuing my passions, obviously doing the Rundown Live, which is a reporter, and I do talk radio.
Can you tell us what the Rundown Live is?
It's an independent news and media. We try to bring all viewpoints, have civil conversations, sometimes about difficult content, as well as we cover protests of all varieties, of all political viewpoints as well.
Is there a large group of people that produce the Rundown Live, or are you kind of the main person?
There's several people that are involved there. It's a group of citizen journalists. We quite often post stuff from other independent news sites. We try to report news before the mainstream media does, so we can give a very raw version.
What is your educational background?
I finished high school, but education really didn't become important to me till my later years. So, most of my research I've done through my own reading of books and information.
Do you have any formal journalistic training?
That I do not.
And do you operate out of the Milwaukee area?
That is correct.
Okay. How long have you been involved with the Rundown Live?
I've been doing reporting for about 12 years.
When you say reporting, is that all the Rundown Live or other stuff?
I also contributed to one of the top police accountability websites as a writer, known as Cop Block, which has been around for a long time.
What is that called?
Cop Block.
Cop Block?
Yes.
Okay.
.org was the website.
And when you say you contribute to them, does that mean you're like a reporter for them?
I used to write for them, though it's a defunct organization that was banned amongst a lot of other websites.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you first get involved in the Rundown Live?
It's probably around 2011.
Did you form it, or did someone else?
Someone else formed it.
And then you joined it?
Yes, that is correct. And that person is no longer involved.
Do you have any sort of title with that organization?
I believe I'm the editor.
And you said you've covered a lot of protests. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Since about 2013, I probably covered over 100, 150 protests. I don't know the exact number.
What types of protests would they be?
Everything from something basic as Second Amendment rights and healthcare workers, against mandates, to BLM, Minneapolis, the burning down of the 3rd Precinct, DC, obviously January 6th, as well as Kenosha and probably countless BLM protests.
There were some things there that I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You said the burning of the 3rd
Burning down
district?
of the 3rd Precinct of Minneapolis, yes.
Okay.
That was the date. I don't know the date. That's how I recognize it.
That was one of the things that happened after George Floyd was killed?
That is correct.
And sorry, Karen, do we need to slow down?
Sure.
Whatever she says, so we got to make sure. You also mentioned January 6th. Is that with regard to what happened at the United States Capitol on January 6th of this year?
That is correct.
Were you there for that?
I was.
Okay. And were you covering that for the Rundown Live?
That is correct.
You mentioned Kenosha. Were you here in Kenosha for the events that followed the shooting of Jacob Blake?
I was on scene within an hour or two of the shooting of Jacob Blake.
Were you then, well, help the jury to understand, when you talk about the Rundown Live, we're familiar with a lot of different types of media, newspapers, magazines, the internet, things like that. Can you help us understand exactly what you mean when you say you cover these things?
Yeah, I'm a citizen journalist, so I generally go to these events and I stream a lot of the times. I interview people to try to get natural conversations and have civil conversations so people can understand, in my viewpoint, what people really are saying before there might be some propaganda added. So essentially, it's the most raw form of journalism.
So when you came down within an hour or thereabouts after Jacob Blake, were you interviewing and speaking to people?
Yes.
Do you record that in any way?
Yes, I do. Well, I stream it. It's recorded on the cloud.
Okay. So is it fair to say that when you are covering any sort of event for the Rundown Live, you have a camera that is taking video of the things you see?
That is correct. I usually use my cell phone, which is a high-end device.
And then that video is live streamed to the internet on whatever site you use so that people can watch it pretty much live. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Okay. So, for example, on the night Jacob Blake was shot on that Sunday night, August 23rd, you were here using your equipment to live stream the things that you were seeing.
That is correct.
Did you continue to do that on Monday night?
Yes.
And again on Tuesday night?
Yes.
So I want to skip right to the night of Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Were you here in Kenosha that night?
I was.
Were you live streaming for the Rundown Live?
As well as collecting B-roll, correct.
I'm sorry?
B-roll is footage that you take because you can't stream live because your internet connection is, so it's actually recorded straight to the device.
Okay. Do you recall approximately what time you would have arrived in Kenosha that particular day or night?
Yeah, around 8 o'clock, 8:15.
Where did you go once you came to town?
I headed down to the courthouse because that's where things were happening.
And then did you start your live streaming at that point?
I attempted to, but courthouse internet isn't the greatest. So.
We've all learned that lesson. So what did you do then?
I recorded video straight to my cellular device because this way at least I had documentation I could publish later.
Did there come a time in which your internet connection improved?
Yes.
How did you manage to make that happen?
It started to improve when I first started to head towards 59th and Sheridan.
Okay. Do you know what changed that made that better?
Yes. I ran into an interaction between Ryan Balch, I believe, and Gage Grosskreutz and other people by the courthouse, and I asked if there was more armed individuals because the night before there was a video that went viral of people protecting property, and I felt it would make a different story than getting the same story I had the last 2 days.
And I do want to talk about what you just mentioned, but I think I didn't ask my question very well. You talked about being here and having poor internet by the courthouse, but then it got better when you went down to a different location.
That is correct, so I could stream live.
What was it that made the internet better or stronger down there than here? Do you know?
I don't know if it was just I had poor cell phone service or it was just better location. That's the only thing I can think of is that location on my way there, it improved. I attempted to go live again and I was able to.
So is it fair to say that once you were able to go live, you continued to broadcast live throughout most of the rest of the evening?
That is correct till my battery ran out.
Okay. And did there come a time in which you went to that 59th Street car source location?
Yes.
Okay. And you've been here in the courtroom throughout parts of this trial, is that fair to say?
That is correct.
And you have seen other witnesses testify, such as Mr. Balch and Mr. Lukowski?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And when you were out live streaming that night, you went to that car source location and interacted with those individuals on some level. Is that fair to say?
That is fair.
Okay. I want to focus in on a period of time in that evening when there was a dumpster that was pulled out in the road out in front of the 59th Street car source. Do you, I'm going to ask two separate questions. First of all, do you independently remember that happening? Did you also get some video of that?
I did. It was streamed live.
Okay. And then from there, did you continue to remain physically at the 59th Street car source location for several minutes after that?
I did.
And were you in close proximity to either Ryan Balch or the defendant, or both of them, during those several minutes afterwards?
Probably within 20 feet.
Okay. Could we begin, I'm going to, our TVs are on, if not, I'll turn them on. Could we watch a little bit of your live stream, which has been marked as exhibit number 18, and we're going to go to the 1 hour, 22 minute, and 14 second mark. Let me just ask Mr. Harris, do you recognize what is up on that screen?
I do.
Can you tell us what that is?
It looks like a dumpster that is in the middle of the street.
And is this a portion of your rundown live stream from the night of August 25th, 2020?
It is.
And would you agree with me that we are looking, well, did you personally recorded this, correct?
Correct.
And this is taken from the 59th Street car source lot looking into Sheridan Road facing east. Would you agree with that?
At this frame, yes.
Okay. Can we please play the video?
And militia are up there.
We need water. Yeah, we got a fire.
Where? Oh, dumpster fire?
Yeah, just a dumpster fire. Hey, it's just like the year, man.
Yeah, right? If 2020 was a blunt, it would be just a fucking stem.
It would just be stem and seed, man.
I could use a doobie right now.
Continue the video for just 1 second, please. Mr. Harris, there are two people in this video that I'm going to point out to you. There is a gentleman here that is a little bit of a taller gentleman with a beard and some sort of cap on, and there's a woman next to him that appears to have sort of reddish hair. Do you see those two people?
I do.
I'm going to ask two questions. First of all, that night, did you have any idea who those people were?
I did not.
As you sit here today, do you know who those people are?
I believe one of them was the person who shot the fire behind, or the gunshot behind Rosenbaum, and I don't know who the other one is because their back is turned to me.
Okay. No dispute, that's Joshua and Kelly Zeminski? No dispute. Okay. So I'll represent to you, sir, that the taller gentleman is Joshua Zeminski, and the woman next to him is Kelly Zeminski. Okay. Please continue.
All right, let's... Morning. How's it going? You guys want to fuck around and find out?
Hey.
You want to
Reel in.
That's what's up.
Reel in. Don't cause problems when there's none here. Yeah, that's true. Just stay on your property. Otherwise you're gonna cause, there's way too many of them.
There is an individual who is standing on the edge of that frame on the right-hand side there. Do you recognize that person as Gage Grosskreutz?
I do.
Okay, please continue.
I agree with her. I have to agree with her. They shouldn't be on the street. They're just protecting their property. One of the guys is an asshole.
I know. I thought they were yelling at them. I was like, why?
Oh, no,
These guys were.
well,
we did because they lit it on
One of the guys losing his patience. He should go inside.
Yeah, that's what we're about to send him.
Yeah, if you guys could switch him out. Just that somebody's a loose cannon. He's got a lot of rage. He says the wrong thing. This whole crowd burns you guys alive.
Can you go back 10 seconds, please?
Yeah, if you guys could switch him out. Just that somebody's a loose cannon. He's got a lot of...
Plus, there we go. Again, I want the jury to see that in the middle of the screen there is a taller gentleman with his hands in his pockets. That is Joshua Zeminski. And on the TV screen to the left of him with jeans on, that is Kelly Zeminski. All right, please go ahead.
Rage. He says the wrong thing. This whole crowd burns you guys alive. Keep it there. He's just trying to protect his property. He doesn't want anything. He has no problem with you guys. He just doesn't want anyone to burn down his shit. I can't blame him. I understand. Hey, your job isn't to be in the street. You guys stay on your property. That's why you got problems already with people. No one bothering your property. Don't look for trouble or anything. A medic? I know you are, but like they got their own medics. You know, if somebody's close by, take care of them. I know you're just trying to make peace. I get.
As this video is playing, we hear your voice speaking to someone in the background. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Who are you speaking to?
I believe that was an interaction with Kyle Rittenhouse.
Do you recall anything about what he was saying to you at that point?
That he was a medic, and that was it. Pretty much that I got from that.
You said at one point they have their own medics. Did you hear that?
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
I cover a lot of protests, so I've become familiar with a lot of the BLM organizations over the summer, especially during the George Floyd marches. So I felt a little bit more comfortable, per se, because I've had more interactions. That's all basically I was.
Sure, but you indicated they have their own medics. What does that mean?
Basically, the medics are, from my understanding, are individuals who volunteer to help out and take care of individuals that were injured, and I've seen them on multiple occasions, 8 individuals that were injured in protests.
Continue.
At that, but they don't look at it that way. They look at you guys as it's a different. It's as much as you guys were afraid of them before they marched down here. I know, but like what a conversation you're having.
So you made a comment there about how they don't look at you that way or something along those lines. What did you mean by that?
A lot of the protesters identified the armed citizens as counter-protesters. They didn't identify them as just protecting their property.
Would it be fair to say that it was your impression that...
That was my impression, correct?
Sure. Would it be fair to say that it was your impression that the people in the crowd viewed the people around Mr. Rittenhouse as a threat?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that there may have been some individuals that had it, but not in the majority. I can't speak for everyone. I don't know what they were thinking.
Okay. No. Let's continue, please.
Thanks, guys.
Back away from the business. Back away from the business.
That's my police.
Leave the business.
It appears that Mr. Balch and Mr. Lukowski are running towards you yelling gas, gas, gas. Would you agree with me on that?
That is correct.
What was going on?
The Bearcats were rolling and they began to tear gas and trying to push the crowd past, I believe that's towards 60th, South 60th.
Okay. Have you recently watched this portion of your video?
I have.
And would you agree with me that for a few minutes after this, you are in close proximity with either Ryan Balch, Kyle Rittenhouse, or both of them at the same time?
I don't know for exactly how long, but yes.
Okay. I'm going to have the video played further, but I'm going to have the sound turned off.
Okay.
And then I'll let my colleague know when to stop the video, okay? Now, while we're playing the video, Mr. Harris, are you able to tell the jury where this scene is?
Yes, it's the back corner of the car lot of Car Source. There's people, or I don't know who it was, but they're throwing rocks up from behind the building.
And where you're at right now in this video are either Mr. Balch or Mr. Rittenhouse near you?
They were probably within 15 feet.
Are there any of the protesters or people on the street or anything like that anywhere near you at this point?
Negative.
Why is that?
They all moved towards what I call the gas station, 60th and Sheridan. Yeah.
Is that in part because the police had just gassed the entire street?
That would probably be the most likely reason.
And that dispersed the crowd?
Correct.
That's the defendant that just came walking towards you, right?
That is correct.
It looks like at this point the wind is blowing that gas towards you and the other folks that were around the corner there. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Did you have a gas mask on?
I did not.
Did any of them, do you know?
Not that I saw.
Let's pause right here. Mr. Harris, do you see those armored vehicles in the street?
Sure do.
Now, if I'm reading the screen here correctly, your video file here has about 24 minutes left to play. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate.
And have you watched this video recently?
Yes.
Does this video end around the time that Mr. Rosenbaum, or the defendant, shoots the people?
Yes, within a few minutes after that. Battery ran out.
Okay. So would it be fair to say that at this moment in the video, the shootings are going to be in roughly 20 minutes or thereabouts after this?
Roughly, yes.
I see that the Bearcats and whatnot are in the road at this point in front of the 59th Street car source. Do you know where they traveled after this?
They traveled more forward towards 60th Street, I believe, and then they stopped there.
Did they establish a line keeping the protesters south of 60th at that point?
With the MRAPs, or Bearcats, yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say, Mr. Harris, that for the remainder of your video, as far as you know, no protesters came back to 59th Street car source after this?
Not that I witnessed.
Two questions. First of all, do you independently remember at any point in the sequence of events that we've just seen, starting with that dumpster fire and all the way forward here, do you remember ever seeing Joseph Rosenbaum?
I do not.
After rewatching your video, is Mr. Rosenbaum in this video at any point during the series that we've just watched?
No, not that I can see.
I have nothing further.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I was ready to go home. No, I'm just kidding.
I tried to start twice and let the jury.
Yeah, it's Monday.
That's what I said.
Thanks for making me laugh.
No, it's all right. First time.
Mr. Harris, on the video, you describe people as militia, right?
Correct.
Point up at the roof and say, there's militia members up there, right?
That is correct.
That's your opinion. You didn't talk to any of them about, I'll ask it to you this way. You had no information that Mr. Rittenhouse was in any type of militia, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you at some point say to him, he's moving the dumpster, and you say, well, I strike that. At first you say, this whole crowd could burn you guys alive if you say the wrong thing. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And why'd you say that?
I wanted to de-escalate the situation.
Was it getting escalated?
Yes.
And that was in part because the dumpster was put out? The fire in the dumpster was put out?
That is correct. It angered the protesters at that time.
Now, did you see things that were going on that night that would be outside the realm of protesting, but more along the lines of rioting?
I would agree with that term, yes.
So you saw, you had mentioned it, and we'll talk about it, rocks were being thrown at people, right?
I didn't witness that.
Well, you saw people throwing rocks on the roof.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough.
There's
I
people
didn't
on the roof.
I was told that by people on the roof that they were throwing rocks.
You didn't see it?
I did not see that, no.
Were you aware that there were homemade gas bombs being thrown?
One of the people on the roof did say that there was a homemade gas bomb, basically, I don't want to, ammonium and bleach. I don't know how they knew that, but that's what they claimed.
And you had said to Mr. Rittenhouse, I know you're just trying to make peace, right?
Correct.
Okay, so to be fair, he wasn't doing anything aggressively, correct?
I agree with that.
He wasn't verbally threatening anyone.
No, he was offering help.
He wasn't using his firearm in a way to scare or intimidate people by pointing it at them. Agreed?
Agreed.
When you say, I think you said on the video at one point, there are people throwing rocks at people on the
Correct.
Do you see Mr. Rittenhouse go after those people in the direction of where they're throwing the rocks and chase them?
No.
So people on the roof are arguably in direct danger because, did you ever see the rocks?
I did see the rubble and people throwing rocks at the Bearcats, but
Right, so
it's
to-
concrete.
Sorry, that's right. So they weren't really throwing what you and I might see like rocks on a beach. We're talking about clumps of concrete that they're smashing, picking up, and then throwing at people, right?
Correct.
And knowing that, you didn't see Mr. Rittenhouse go after those people who were actually causing danger to others, right?
No, I did not.
Did you have contact with the owners of that the car source that night or the next day?
Not those 2 days, but I did see him pull up, I think, later on in that week.
The two brother, if you know.
I don't know. All I know is that whoever the owners were, they pulled up, and I briefly walked by and said something to him. I don't recall.
Mr. Harris, I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Any redirect?
Mr. Harris, the people that you saw at 59th Street Car Source that you characterized as the militia, was the defendant dressed the same as them?
No, he was not.
He had on sort of an army green colored shirt, correct?
Lime green, army green shirt.
He had a weapon slung around him like they did, correct?
Correct.
It was the same type of weapon as the rest of those folks, correct?
I'm not really good with guns, but it seemed to be so.
He was in the same group with these guys that you felt were militia members, correct?
That is correct.
And he was acting the same as they were, wasn't he?
For the most part, yes.
You were asked about who escalated things. Can we get Exhibit 18 at the 1 hour and 22 minute and 30-second mark, please? Let's play from there with sound, please.
If 2020 is a blunt, it would be just a fucking stem.
It would just be stem and seed, man.
I could use a doobie right now.
Hey, cover me, I got this. All right, let's. Morning. How's it going? You guys want to fuck around and find out?
Hey.
You guys want to fuck around and find out, right? Immediately after that, you basically scold that guy, don't you?
I believe, well, whatever you want to call it, I tried to de-escalate the situation.
Because he was escalating it,
That is
wasn't
correct.
he? By what he was saying.
Yes.
You guys want to fuck around and find out. Did you interpret that as a threat towards the other people?
I didn't really think about it, but I could see how it could be interpreted that way.
And that guy's wearing an AR-15, isn't he?
Probably, yes.
In fact, that same guy went around back, and when those people were behind the place throwing rocks, he said to you he was going to take his gun and start shooting rounds through the fence at them, didn't he?
I don't recall or remember that.
Can we go forward on the video to about... Let's go to about one...
Nothing to do with Mr. Rittenhouse. Nothing.
What is the relevance of this?
There were questions about what the response was to people throwing rocks
The response of whom?
of the group.
The group is not on trial. Mr. Rittenhouse is on trial.
That's fine. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
The person that was yelling on that tape, that's not Mr. Rittenhouse, right?
That is correct.
Nothing else.
Oh, you may step down, sir. What about a break? Let's take a break. Please don't talk about the case. Read, watch, or listen to any of the count of the trial. See you in a little bit. Maybe 3:15? Maybe. Maybe not.
All right, what should we watch while we're waiting for this to come back on? Let's you know what? Let's watch something funny. Let's see if I haven't watched this weekend yet. You laugh, you lose yet. Let's watch this. How about that?
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Happy Sunday. Welcome to Education, and welcome to another episode of You Laugh, You Lose. If you're new to this channel and new to this series, the game is very, very simple. If you laugh at anything in today's video...
Actually, wait a minute. You know what? I found a meme freaking thing the other day. Let's see if I can find it again. I've been kicked off Facebook, so I have to have a stupid name now, so they don't know who I am. Let's see. Hold on. Please look. I'll find it. Let's see. Where are you?
There was an issue. Let me see you gentlemen for a
wait
sec,
a
would
minute.
you?
They're coming back. Oh, they're not talking though. Where is it? Like they had one. Oh, it was the Pope made me freaking laugh. Which one is it? Now I can't find it, of course, right? Was it on here? I think it's maybe this one. Maybe it's on this one. I don't want to just see that one. Okay, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe I'll find it again. It had like the Pope, and you know how they were talking about the Joe Biden shit himself, right? So it had the Pope, and he's like, well, you know, I called him Brandon, and then he shit himself. Well, there you go. A gas generator being used to charge a dead battery in an electric car. Let's see. Breaking news. Travis Scott reportedly paying funeral expenses for Astro World Fest victims. Where the heck is it? Come and shot a passing car while firing across Chicago Avenue. Well, of course they are. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Let's see. Dude, I copied the picture too, but I can't find where I put it. Where are you? Where are you? And what did you do with the $600 you got from the bank, sir? I put $400 worth of gas in my car and bought a roll of toilet paper. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I hope they get rid of Fauci pretty soon. Guy's driving me nuts. Quick, mate. This is what depression looks like. Yeah. But Dare Ford's giving away a bike. Why don't you give away a car? Look at the Blue Angel. That's a badass fucking plane. Dude, of course, I wanted to find it. Now I can't find it. You know what? Fuck it. We'll just go. We'll go to watch the Laugh You Lose.
Video, you have to do a punishments. What is today's punishments? That thing. Ate it all. Clicked for notification. Name is Brandon now. This is believable. You guys stop calling him Brandon. He probably really thinks this. This is sad. It's really sad. Can't even laugh at that. VO5. Men 13 and 1. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothpaste, mouthwash, deodorant, peanut butter, Gatorade, milk, tinfoil, tennis shoes, dental floss, eye drops. See, this is one of the good parts about being a man. You get to have the 13 and 1 shampoos. While
Oh yeah, I saw that.
all of you
Penis
women out
bit
there,
off
I
that
don't know
dude.
why, but you have to take up 2 corners in the shower with like 30 different bottles. It doesn't make any sense. They're scamming you, ladies. They're scamming you. You can do the 13 and 1 too if you want to. Before you open your mouth to speak, make sure it's an improvement upon the silence. This is a philosophy that should be taught in kindergarten. If it's not a productive or meaningful statement that improves the conversation or improves the silence, just shut up. All right? This is probably 90% of most conversations.
Right?
So
Real, or
let's start teaching this to our kids. Him. Are you mad? Her. No, I'm fine. Him. Good. Text you later then. Her. I just find it funny how...
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
We've had a lot of these lately. RIP to this guy.
Yeah.
Don't deal with this. Ladies don't do this. Guys don't do this either. And nobody should deal with this either. Don't let this happen to you. Walk away. Turns out you can just buy a birthday cake anytime and eat it yourself. Nobody checks. Don't let people know that secret. This is dangerous. If you know this, if you have this knowledge, you might be eating a lot of birthday cakes.
up, Larry?
Don't do that. But it's true. Nobody does check. They're not going to ask for your ID. So forget about the idiot that did this. I'm just fascinated that I spent 30 minutes trying to pronounce it. 21st Street?
21st Street.
21st Street. I think we need to change every 21st street to this. This has got to be a thing now. This is great. Tonight we're having Himalayan rabbit stew for dinner. We found Himalayan in the road. Dumb. This is up for dumb joke of the day for sure. Currently sitting at #1 spot. So dumb joke and B.
Well, Val,
don't be
Val,
eating roadkill. Like unless you're super desperate, but I don't think you
I've
have to
lost
resort
everything.
to that.
I've been.
This is me thinking about Thanksgiving. I question your sanity.
I feel your
like
pain.
If this is the daydreams, if these are the daydreams you have, floating down a gravy river in a kayak.
My drive probably came back on.
That's kind of weird.
Hold on, my drive finally came back on. So let me do it. It's let me rename it here. It's got a 253 in there. I haven't got to rename it. Here we go. This is hilarious. This is just freaking hilarious, right? I knew I'd find it somewhere. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw this one. I gotta show Donnie J. All right, let's go. Let's play. Why are you not playing? Oh.
That's a little bit weird. Epic fail. Which part? The toilet in the corner or those god-awful tiles?
I don't know. Us guys.
This is a fail all around. Me when I hear the neighbors arguing. I think we've had this before, but it's a good reminder, you guys. If you're going to do this, which most of us do, let's be honest.
Who doesn't listen to the
Be discreet
neighbors?
about it. Don't be this big, giant person in the corner that's very noticeable while everyone's arguing about, their marital issues in public, in their neighborhood forum. So, just be discreet about it, guys. Elon Musk's Neuralink chip will allow users to stream music into their brain. Hackers. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna say goodbye. This is dangerous.
Oh my
Elon
God,
Musk,
not Rick
why are you pushing
Astley.
this, man? We're all gonna get rickrolled. People
Rick
getting in line for Black Friday. Fact check true. This is actual footage. This is what they're doing. People are ready
Oh my
to
gosh,
storm the
that's
boats.
funny.
I'll sometimes run the vacuum over something 9 or 10 times, and then reach down, pick it up, and move it to a different place to try again.
I've actually
The
done that.
vacuum tried its best. It deserves another chance. I'm nice like that.
Actually done that.
Worst part is I've done this. I have. I don't know if I've reached down and picked it up, maybe. But I know I for sure
Hell yeah,
kicked
Val.
stuff to see if I can get it to the vacuum to suck it up, but
Mine was so bad, Val, that I actually got divorced. My wife was such a fucking liberal. But now I'm free. Now I'm free.
we gotta
Got
stop
rid of
being lazy,
her.
guys. Tracking your package in
Sold
2021
my
be
house.
like, your
Bought a
package is
trailer
here.
so I can travel the country.
Again, back to the shipping stuff. This is a bad deal. This is how we're tracking stuff now. There are two kinds of people in the world. Those that are right, and those that like the taste of black licorice.
I'm Dutch, so I like
Yuck.
black licorice.
I know we've been divided, guys. I know
like
we've been
black
divided on the
licorice.
pineapple on pizza. The candy
Yeah,
corn.
this is a
I mean,
education.
both
You
of
laugh,
those
you
issues
lose.
are fairly
They'll put
close.
one out every
within
Sunday,
plus or
Alex.
5 to 10%. Plus minus 5-10%. This one, we're gonna have to do a poll on this one. I'll put the poll up before this video drops.
Right,
hopefully.
Double O'Neill, now that I'm
So
single,
go
I
answer
can
that poll.
breathe in.
Black licorice, yes or no? I expect these
Yes
results to
to
be
black
very, very swayed to no. Because nobody
But I'm
except your
Dutch. We eat black
great-grandma
licorice.
likes this crap. This is disgusting. And if you like this, I do question your sanity. Google may catch you escaping prison, but they'll still blur out your face because Google ain't a snitch. Is this real? Did their Google Maps car, whatever that...
Actually, no, I didn't live in I had an actual house. I just when we got a divorce, I paid her off so I could keep the house. And then my stepdad got old. Well, he's old already, and he asked for help. So he said, "Hey, you should come help me out and stay with me." And somebody called one day and said, "Hey, you want to sell your house?" And they offered me enough money, and I said, "Sure." So I bought a trailer, and Now I'm buying a brand new diesel truck, and I'm gonna go travel the country starting in January.
However they do this, did it actually catch someone? Is this a real photo?
Black licorice tastes better when you're drunk. You think? Sounds like you like. Oh my gosh, I can Jägermeister. That's what it is, Jaeger
Go
bombs.
from Google Maps? And if so, can we get the coordinates? I gotta check this out. Some of my friends exercise every day. Meanwhile, I'm watching a show I don't like because the remote fell on the floor. You probably pick the stuff up with the vacuum too, don't you? Stop being lazy. Remember,
Does it all
when you
safe?
bury a body, cover it with endangered plants so it is illegal to dig it up. Follow me for more gardening tips. I guess that's genius. Don't kill anybody, don't bury bodies, but if you're in that spot, if you're making a movie, if you're writing a story, this is a good plot line. I just read that last year, 4,213,257 people got married. I don't want to start any trouble, but shouldn't that be an even number? No, because in today's world, you can marry dolls, you can marry ashtrays. That's the level of,
don't get married.
You know,
I'm not
tolerance,
interested
if you
in
want to
getting
say,
married again.
we're at. You can probably marry animals now, for all we know. I don't know.
Never
But
get married.
no, it doesn't have to be an even number, you bigot. When you fart in an aisle at the store and you walk away hearing the screams of your victims. Grow up. You think farts are funny, man? You think farts are funny? Grow up. If your car is running, I'm voting for it. That seems to be the case. According to the last week's elections, like, people are rejecting the current people in power, the Democrats in power, so I think most people would vote for a car.
Vote
People have
damn
not enjoyed
out.
2021, clearly. Be nice to your hairstylist, because what's stopping them from plucking one of your hairs and putting it at a crime scene? Nothing.
Never thought
Now
about
I'm
that.
paranoid.
I never thought
Very.
about
What?
that.
Like, that's terrifying. They have all the power. Hairstylists have all the power. They do. And that was the last time I was asked to help at a baby shower. That is absolutely disgusting. Yuck. Ew, ew, ew. I love chips and dip, and I don't know if I could eat that. That's disgusting. A guide to putting your clocks back.
Oh my
Smartphone.
gosh.
Leave it alone. It does its magic. Sundial. Move one house to the left. Oven. You'll need a master's in electronic engineering or a hammer. Car radio. Not worth it. Wait 6 months. That car radio one is really true.
Most people do.
Just don't even bother. Just get it in your head. The clock's moved, whatever. And can we stop this? Like, there's literally no point in doing this. There's no point. Doesn't make the days longer. Just wake up earlier or wake up late. That's it. That's it. If you need the sunlight, wake up earlier or later, depending on the time of the year. That's how easy it is. The company that did this deserves a special place in hell. No, they don't. This is what we need. We need more of this. We need more people getting some exercise. This is how it is. Sometimes you gotta show some tough love. This is tough love. They don't deserve a place in hell. They deserve a medal. Red pill. You restart your life at the age of 10 with all the knowledge you have now. Blue pill. You jump to 45 years old with 50 million in the bank. I mean, are we gonna have to do a poll on this one too? Obviously, red pill. I mean, 50 million. Hell, by 45 years old, by the time you are 60, that might be worthless. We don't know. The dollar is tanking. So when you go out with a girl you met off Snapchat and she doesn't bring her filters with her. Ooh. Ladies, this can happen to you too.
my
Guys get
gosh.
catfished, but you can get catfished as well. So be careful, everyone out there. Everyone out there in the dating world, this could happen to you. Don't let it. Take preventative measures. Getting gas this morning, I noticed the person before me on pump 3 bought $10 worth. Where the hell were they going? To pump 4? Look, I've been there. You only have $5, you gotta put $5 in. And that was
remember
when
the
gas
days
was
when
up to
you used to have to
$4 a
go
gallon.
and,
It looks like we're heading there again, sadly. But
cash,
sometimes
the
you only have
coins out of your
$5.
ashtray.
Sometimes you only have $10, and that's you got to drive to pump 4. It is what it is.
Do they still have
90% of being married is just shouting "what" from other rooms. It's fact check true. I overslept this morning and in a hurry. Half an hour later in the office, and decided to look down.
For the defense, you're wrong, Allstate. It's about to start up
This
again.
is you. You gotta take some time off, man. Take a break. Me and the homies carpooling to work once gas prices reach $4. Smart. Hope you guys, wear those elbow pads, wear the helmets. You think smoking at the pump is risky? Try charging your car in a flood. It's quite shocking. Please don't unfriend me. This is a candidate for dumb joke of the day for sure. Although this picture is kind of scary. Look at that. That can't be good. Elon, did you think about this one? Okay, hear me out. Zcast does the cookie game from Squid Game, and whoever loses has to do a punishment, like on You Laugh, You Lose. And it's perfect, because there are 4 shapes. It'd also be funny if Zed gets the umbrella, lol. Why do I gotta get the umbrella?
I've never even watched the Squid Game.
That is not fair. But I like this idea. Maybe we should do this. Head over to Zcast.
They still
you can do it on YouTube or head over to Zcast on Apple or Spotify. Check us out there. And we might be doing this shortly. This is kind of a good idea. When you've ignored your laundry for weeks, stop being lazy. Do the loads of laundry. Do 1 a day. It's that easy. Folks, I give you America's worst fireplace. That gives me anxiety. Like, how do you not center this? What is wrong with whoever built this? My favorite part of fall is when the mosquitoes go back to hell. I have to say, that's mine too. And you get to sit outside by the fire without any mosquitoes biting you.
Right?
It's a good time.
Kind of game.
Why does he have Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue on the decorative shelf?
Oh, shit.
Who knows, dude? Aliens do weird things. Don't even be surprised. I'm thinking of starting new university, Texas Institute of Technology and Science. It will have epic merch, universally admired. Oh, dude. More from Elon here.
Tits.
Massachusetts has MIT, California has CIT, Texas has tits.
A lot of girls do
get
have them in
degrees.
Texas.
Equal support for left and right. If Massachusetts and California can have an Institute of Technology, surely Texas can have one too. Adding science makes it even more scientific. Oh God, we have to do the searching here for the backlash on this. I guarantee people were mad at this. Texas should have a scientific institute. I agree. So it is what it is. Well, I finally got my girlfriend to stop stealing my sweater.
352,000 people watching.
Is it worth it though? Like, do you really want to wear that around? It's kind of nasty, man. Garbage trucks in 1940s. Garbage truck today. It's a fact check true. That is a an upgraded garbage truck in 2021. About time the Island Boys went viral. It's what I was thinking too. This story is far from over, by the way. Ghislaine Maxwell's trial starts here soon. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes out of that. You may be old, but are you this old?
Actually, yes, I am.
These were the days. And this is where you had to take up a phone line to get onto the internet. You log in here, you go onto MSN Messenger, you talk to all your friends on there,
while you're online,
and then you start playing some pinball or some Minesweeper. Those were the days. Who is eating this part of the Chex Mix?
Actually, I think that's
Does
the
anyone
best
eat
one.
anything else in the Chex Mix? That's all I eat in there.
That's the best kind.
A DMV employee dressed up as a sloth. Was this a Halloween costume? Or is this just the DMV employee every day? Because, and I have to say, I've been to one DMV that is incredibly efficient, and I go there every time. But every other one I've ever been to, there's no quick, fast, and in a hurry. There's no regard for other people's time. There's no reason for them to go faster anyways. They're going to get their check at the end of the day, right? Doesn't matter how much they get done or how much they mess up. This is the DMV. This is the government's in a nutshell. Do you have health insurance? Me. This is all you need.
Oh, wait, they're coming
Especially
back.
if you
I
work
hear 'em.
out every day.
Alright, they're coming back. I know, every time I get sick, I drink Sprite. I don't know why. Sprite seems to help.
Could you come down, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
What if he called him and just started pranking him? Does the judge have an earring? I thought I saw something shine on his ear. At least it's in the left ear. Does that still matter anymore, what ear you have your earring in? Remember in the old days, you had, if you were straight, you put it in your left ear. If you were gay, you put it in your right ear. Ginger ale is good. I just don't like the taste of ginger ale. I don't like the taste of it. So, like, what's with these speaker units that all these earphone things all these people have? Is that so you can hear the trial, or like is it a translator? I wonder. I wonder what they're saying over those things, Mister. No, actually, you know who the judge looks like? I think he looks like freaking Junior Soprano. Hey, there's no Antifa in the courtroom today. You don't respect any man that has an earring? When I was in high school, it was like a popular thing. He doesn't have an iPhone. Hey, at least the judge knows how to use a freaking smartphone. Oh my gosh, my stepdad's 86 years old and I get a phone call at least once or twice a week. Help me with it. Should have never bought him an iPhone. Dude, why is there so blurry? You would think they'd have better
Alright.
freaking cameras in
You
there.
may proceed, Mr. Binger.
Alright, I'll shut up now.
May I proceed, Judge? The state calls Detective Ben Antaramian. I do. Could you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Detective Ben Antaramian, A-N-T-A-R-A-M-I-A-N.
How are you currently employed?
I'm a detective with the City of Kenosha Police Department.
How long have you been with the Kenosha Police Department?
10 years and some change now.
And how long have you been a detective?
About 3.5 years.
And do you recall what your assignment was on the evening of August 25th, 2020?
We were in a modified role, whereas traditionally we're investigators. We were initially assigned at the beginning of the shift to go to local gas stations and ensure that their pumps were turned off to prevent further fires that night.
When you say we, who is the we?
Detective Howard and I believe Detective Valeri was also with us.
Is that Detective Brandy Valeri?
Yes, sir.
And so other than going to the gas stations, did you have any other assignments that evening?
We were just assisting in general patrol. Any areas that needed help, we'd respond over and just see what they needed. People who were being taken into custody, we'd assist with that as well.
Now, I think we're all aware that beginning on Sunday night, August 23rd, after the shooting of Jacob Blake, there was a lot of unrest in Kenosha that continued on Monday night. What was the law enforcement response and planning and whatnot for Tuesday night, if you know?
By Tuesday night, and this comes from, I wasn't directly involved in the planning, obviously, that's way above my position, but generically speaking, by Tuesday night, we had multiple agencies that responded. The National Guard had arrived, so we had multiple, we call them pieces of armor, but Bearcats and MRAPs that were available to us. So by then, there was a more organized response. We had active patrol assignments, and we had dedicated areas of responsibility. We were able to respond more effectively to the bigger calls that Monday and Sunday we were able to respond to, but not as appropriately as we normally would.
And if you would please slow down a little bit for Madam Court Reporter.
Apologies.
The most important person in the room. Except for the judge, of course.
No, I think you're right.
So, Detective, if there were situations that Tuesday night where there was some sort of report or a 911 call in some other part of Kenosha other than this downtown area, was the Kenosha Police Department equipped to handle those types of calls?
Absolutely.
I want to focus in on the downtown area, and there's that map that we've all been referring to. What was the logistical, the strategic plan, I guess, the tactical plan for handling any issues that arose in that area, the downtown area, on that particular night, if you know?
Again, speaking more generically, as it's not my pay grade, but we had dedicated SWAT teams along with, we call them CDERT, but essentially a riot team. We had dedicated units that were assigned to respond to specific calls. So if there was a fire, we'd have a dedicated SWAT team or SWAT response along with a riot team to ensure that whatever problem we had could be properly handled.
Is it fair to say that during a part of that evening there was also a large number of police officers that were here outside the courthouse?
Correct.
The other units that you've just described, were they separate from the people that were out in front of the courthouse?
Yes, those were auxiliary personnel.
And you mentioned if there was a fire. So, for example, if the 59th Street car source or the 63rd Street car source had a structure fire or a house fire along in one of those areas or something like that, was there enough resources in law enforcement to respond to something like that?
To the best of my knowledge, there were, yes.
What about if there were smashed out car windows? Was that something that the law enforcement was going to come in and respond to?
No, unless it was a threat to life, we weren't going to be going at that point.
Is it fair to say that the response depended on the type of crime, the type of report that needed to be handled?
Correct.
So if it was just property damage, like broken windows or something like that, was that something that police were going to respond to?
Not at that time, no, not emergent.
What if it were a threat to life, such as a house fire or a shooting or a serious violence incident, something like that? Were there enough resources that night for the police to come in and respond as quickly as possible?
Correct, there were.
We've heard a lot of testimony in this case about the defendant shooting people that night. I want to put that aside. Other than that, was anyone else killed here in Kenosha as part of all these protests, riots, civil unrest, whatever you want to call it, on the night of August 25th?
No one else was killed that night.
Was anyone else seriously injured?
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Dumbass!
You've described a little bit of your personal assignments that evening. Did there come a time in which your responsibility changed?
Yes, there was a time when that changed.
Tell us about that.
So around 11:49 p.m., there were multiple calls for shots fired in the area of 63rd Street and Sheridan Road. Initially, officers were, they believed to be chasing the involved parties who were involved in the shooting, west and south. So there's it'd be off screen, but there's a minimum security prison closer to 65th and 14th. The foot pursuits had generally gone that way. So we were tasked with assisting with the perimeter that was established to try and catch those people.
I want to stop you for a second because I believe you mentioned there was a report of a shooting at 63rd and Car Source. Is that right?
Correct.
Or 63rd and Sheridan, which is the Car Source, right? And we now know that's the killing of Joseph Rosenbaum. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Other than that, did Kenosha Police respond to other unrelated shootings in that area at that same time?
Yes, so as that unfolded, we received more reports for shots fired, and as you've seen the videos and heard, it continued. But essentially there was what was believed to be an exchange of gunfire, and I believe it's Main Park, which is just west of the Car Source location at 6226 Sheridan Road.
Can you use that laser pointer and point out that park that you just described? Okay. And what is the name of that park?
I believe it's Main Park.
And that's basically located between 10th and 11th Avenues and 62nd and 63rd Street. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. And do you know whether or not there actually was any sort of shooting over there?
There were shots fired. In terms of someone hurt, we never received reports of anyone injured by gunfire in that area.
Do you know whether or not that had anything to do with the events in this case?
I do not believe it had anything to do with this case.
Is it fair to say, though, that while there was a need for a response to the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum, other law enforcement resources were also trying to deal with that other incident simultaneously?
Correct. There were multiple squads. I believe there was actually a piece of armor that was utilized. There's like a daycare just behind the car source, and there were reports that a shooter had run into there. So, I mean, there was a large amount of police personnel in that area.
Now, you mentioned that at some point in the evening your responsibilities changed, and I know you were talking about the 63rd and Sheridan shooting. Did there come a time in which you, as a detective, were assigned to handle that investigation?
Shortly after midnight, I was given the news that I'd be the lead investigator assigned to this, along with Detective Howard.
And is it fair to say that since then you two have been the primary investigators in this case?
Correct.
Do you recall when it was that you learned that the person who had done those shootings was the defendant, Kyle Rittenhouse?
Within a few hours, we were aware that it was Kyle Rittenhouse.
Did there come a time in which you and Detective Howard went down to the Antioch Police Department to meet with him?
Yes.
Did you determine how old Mr. Rittenhouse was on that particular day?
Yes, on the night of August 25th, 2020, he was 17 years old.
And his date of birth is January 3rd, 2003. Is that correct?
Correct.
As part of your investigation, did you take possession of the firearm that was involved, that the defendant used to shoot Mr. Rosenbaum, Mr. Huber, and Mr. Grosskreutz?
Yes, I took possession of it down in Antioch, Illinois, at their police department.
And I have, could you hold up that firearm? I'm having Detective Howard hold up a weapon that has been marked as exhibit number 28. You don't need to bring it to him, just if you could show it to him. Do you recognize that, Detective Antaramian?
Yeah, that's the firearm in question.
Is that the weapon that Mr. Rittenhouse used to shoot Joseph Rosenbaum, Anthony Huber, and Gage Grosskreutz on the night of August 25th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
And is it in substantially the same condition as it was when you took possession of it?
Yeah, that I'm calling it an optic, but the sight that was separated from it, when I took possession of it, that was still attached. I had to remove it so we could fit it into one of those gun boxes.
Detective Howard, could you hold that up one more time, please? I'm sorry. Making you use a lot of gloves here. I apologize. If you could just hold that up so the jury can see it, please. Right there is fine. Thank you. Detective Antaramian, did the weapon that we are looking at here, did it have that strap attached to the butt when you took possession of it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. After you took possession of the defendant's weapon, what investigation, if any, did you do to determine whether or not that was actually the weapon used in these shootings?
So later on after that night, I believe it was the 28th, we had the weapon taken to what's called a NIBIN facility down in Chicago. N-I-B-I-N. I couldn't tell you exactly what the acronym stands for, but it's they test ballistics.
Can you bring that microphone really close so we can hear
Yeah,
it?
sorry about that.
That's okay.
So we took it to a NIBIN. Essentially, it was a trailer that the ATF had established down in Chicago. So we took it down there and handed it over to the NIBIN technicians, who subsequently test fired the firearm, and they were able to correlate that the casings we had recovered at that time, it was 6 casings, did in fact come from that firearm.
And I think there's been some testimony that maybe the next day on the 29th, there were 2 more casings that you found, or Detective Howard found, for a total of 8?
Correct.
And those 8 spent shell casings were also given to Heather Williams, who testified earlier at the crime lab, to verify that information as well. Is that right?
Correct. So NIBIN typically won't give you a final report. They'll give you what they believe to be accurate, but then the crime lab has to actually confirm that information.
So then you had Heather Williams at the crime lab verify that the shell casings, the 8 shell casings, came from the defendant's gun. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Prior to having the defendant's gun brought to NIBIN or the crime lab, was the swabbing done to see if there's DNA on the gun?
Yes, the firearm was turned over to an evidence technician who performed the standard evidentiary DNA swabs they take from the firearm.
And that was Officer Jeff Van Wee?
Correct.
Is it possible for additional DNA testing to be done on an item in a case, a gun, a phone, any sort of physical item later on in the case?
Yes.
After that initial swabbing was done, did you ever receive a request from the defendant or his attorneys to have additional DNA testing done on the gun?
I didn't hear what you said. You were objecting why? I'm sorry.
That's right. I should use my microphone. It's burden shifting.
Rephrase your question.
I'll ask it this way, Detective Antaramian. After the first swabs were done by Officer Van Wee, did you ever receive a request from anyone to have additional swabs done on any part of that gun?
No.
If you had received such a request, would you have followed through with that?
Yes.
We've heard some testimony about an item that was recovered from Mr. Grosskreutz. Detective Howard, if you could locate that for us, please. What is the exhibit sticker on there? 61. This is an item which has already been introduced into evidence as exhibit number 61. Do you recognize that item?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what it is?
So, and I'm not an expert on this, but those are devices used by both our SWAT team and then our CEDART or riot teams. They're typically referred to as like a gas bomb, if you will, in layman's terms, but it's like a nerve gas, non-lethal, that is used to disperse crowds.
Is this a device that is used by law enforcement?
Yeah, some people would also call it tear gas.
Is this a device that a common layperson could create on their own at home?
No, I don't believe so.
Is this device, when it was recovered from Mr. Grosskreutz, had it already been used? Was it no longer capable of emitting any gas?
Based off my observations, it was already spent.
Yeah, thank you. Could we please have exhibit number 10 pulled up?
I put it back. Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry.
I put it back. I did that mistake.
Now, Detective, as part of the investigation in this case, did you and Detective Howard work to acquire video that was recorded by various people of the shootings?
Yes.
And do you recognize the video that's up on this screen?
It looks like one of those, yes.
Okay, and this is the recorded by someone called Ford Fisher, News to Share. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Could we begin playing this video? I'm going to have it stopped here in just a second, but let's go ahead.
Someone just got killed.
Shit. Detective, does this video show the immediate aftermath of the defendant's killing of Joseph Rosenbaum?
It appears so, yes.
I'd move Exhibit 10 into evidence.
Is there objection? No. Received. May I see you turn for a second?
I wish they'd let us hear this shit. Kyle should have said is this.
I will put you through that fucking wall!
Oh my god, it's just the freaking prosecutor is so freaking stupid. It's not even funny. And this dude, I don't know, his stash is just getting on my nerves. The go-go gadget inspector gadget guy. Come on, guys. Let's get this over with. You can lip read, hang on. Oh, wait, we're back.
Okay, and then finally, Detective, can we please pull up, I think it's Exhibit 73. Is that the one I gave you? Before we begin that video, Detective, at some point in the investigation, did you become aware of the fact that there was drone video that someone had recorded? If you know.
Yeah, early on, I don't know the exact date, but early on we did see on a news segment, I believe it was a Fox News segment, that there was drone footage that we hadn't found at that point in time.
Do you have any idea what the source of that drone footage was?
I believe it was accredited to Urban Aired.
I have on the screen a video which has been marked as exhibit number 73. Is this that footage that you're referring to?
It appears so.
Okay. Can we please play that for the jury? Detective, just to help everybody understand, that was footage taken from a position south of the 63rd car source lot looking north into the lot. Would that be roughly accurate to say?
Yeah, it'd be right around that area, looking northbound.
And does that show the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Okay. I would move Exhibit 73 into evidence. I have no further questions.
Good afternoon, Detective. Okay. Did you, I know that you've shown us the gun. Did you ever measure the barrel on that gun?
I never personally measured it. I believe on the E-Trace form that I think Officer Van Week performed on, it would show that barrel length there, but I never personally did.
It's not a short, you don't believe it's a short barreled rifle, do you?
No, I do not.
Now, you were asked some questions initially by Mr. Binger about if anybody else was killed that evening. During those time of those riots, there were people that had been seriously injured, correct?
Yes.
Law enforcement officers had been seriously injured, is that right?
Correct.
One officer was struck in the face with a brick, is that right?
Yep.
And then a man who came out to help that officer, somebody had filled I think it was a bottle with cement and hit that person in the face, is that right? Breaking his jaw?
I don't have firsthand knowledge of that aspect, but the brick one I know for a fact.
In terms of, I'm going to ask you this question. One of the things in your role as a detective was you had gotten information regarding a specific group called Armed Citizens to Protect Our Lives and Property. Is that right?
Correct.
And that video or that Facebook post listed specifics, August 25th, 6 p.m., things like that, right?
It was like a Facebook group meeting.
Okay. Your report indicates there are no indications in the email that Kyle Rittenhouse liked or showed interest in the Facebook post or the group itself, correct?
Correct.
And you've been present for all the testimony, is that right?
I have.
And so you heard some of the questions regarding Detective Howard regarding kind of what your role as a detective is, right?
Yeah.
You don't work for Mr. Binger, do you?
No, I do not.
If I said that a detective is really kind of a truth seeker, you don't care which way the evidence goes, you just want to get it right. Would that be fair?
Yeah, throughout the investigation, we referred to ourselves as the fact finders.
So you're not supposed to, and I'm not saying you are, you're not supposed to take sides, correct? You're just supposed to, wherever the evidence leads you, you go.
Correct. We remain neutral.
So when you arrived, I know that you said you arrived at the Antioch Police Department. It was about what time, if you remember?
I honestly don't recall. It was a long night.
Early in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 3 or 4 in the morning? Sound about right?
That would sound about right, yes.
And at that point, can you tell me what, if anything, you had reviewed in the way of evidence?
We had seen at that point, I believe, 2 videos that were circulating on social media that were pretty grainy, shared secondhand. You know, we really didn't have the original source of it that showed, I believe, the first shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum, and then I want to say the next 2 as well, in separate clips.
At that point, you didn't have any, because of the time, you didn't have any, no statements had been taken yet, as far as you knew, correct?
None that were relayed to me.
And obviously at that point, none of the forensic work or anything like that certainly was maybe being collected, but it wasn't completed.
Correct.
Okay. And this was even before Gage Grosskreuz's interview with police. True?
Yeah, because first shift conducted that, and that'd be sometime after 6 or 7 a.m. The interview with Mr. Grosskreutz occurred somewhere after 6 or 7 a.m. when day shift came on. So our interactions down in Antioch were closer to 3 or 4 a.m.
And you had, if I'm right, you had placed Mr. Rittenhouse under arrest for these offenses at about 6-ish in the morning?
That sounds about right.
Okay. And again, I'm not being critical. You had basically seen some grainy footage of the videos, and that's what you had at that point. Fair?
We had his admission that he had been involved in the shootings, and then, yeah, some video, absolutely.
And the next day, meaning the 27th, you are meeting with the DA's office to formalize charges against Mr. Rittenhouse, correct?
To draft a criminal complaint.
At that point, had you been made aware of or reviewed the statement by Richie McGinnis about what he had observed? Do you remember?
I don't recall if I saw that exact one yet. We really didn't sit down and read all the reports for at least a few days, given everything and how fluid the situation was.
Okay, so to be fair, he was charged prior to all of the information actually coming in, correct?
The criminal complaint was drafted prior to us concluding the investigation. I would agree with that.
And you and I might deal with warrants kind of on a regular basis. You ask for search warrants kind of in the regular course of your job, right?
Correct.
And so how it works is you write an application for a warrant, putting forth why you believe there's probable cause that the thing that you're looking to search will contain relevant information in your investigation, right?
Correct. Commonly referred to as an affidavit.
Okay. And you swear that affidavit out, right?
Correct.
And you present that to a judge, and the judge reviews that. If the judge reads it and says there's probable cause, then the judge will sign that warrant, and then you can execute it. Is that fair?
Correct.
Now, in this case, you drafted an affidavit to get the phone belonging to Gage Grosskreutz, right?
I don't know if it was me who drafted the affidavit or Detective Howard, but between the two of us, an affidavit was drafted, correct?
And that affidavit was presented to a Kenosha County judge
Correct.
who reviewed it and signed it.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So you had a valid, in your mind, certainly a valid search warrant, correct?
Correct.
I know there's been information or conversations about this Marcy's Law and things like that. You've been an officer for how long, 10 years?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had a search warrant signed by a judge that you did not execute?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever had a search warrant that you did not execute in a homicide investigation?
I don't recall. It's possible. Sometimes you have warrants where you just, maybe you realize you messed up an affidavit. There's been times I have not served an affidavit or a signed search warrant. I can't say with certainty whether or not it was on a homicide investigation, though.
If you don't execute it, is it most of the time because of what you just said, you believe there might be something faulty with the search warrant?
That's the common reason, but you can have times where new information comes forward and you determine you're not going to execute said search warrant.
Did new information come forward in this case as to why you would not execute a search warrant for Gage Grosskreuz's phone?
As was discussed previously, we were advised, given Marcy's law, it would not be ideal to execute that search warrant.
Who advised you of that?
I believe it was a conversation with the attorneys. I don't know who brought it up initially, though.
So when you say the attorneys, Mr. Binger was one of the attorneys?
I believe so, yes.
So, tell me if I'm right, the prosecutors in this case advised you not to execute the search warrant for Gage Grosskreuz's phone?
That sounds correct.
Have you ever had a prosecutor say to you, detective, you have a valid search warrant, don't execute it?
Not that I can recall, no. Beyond the previous one we just discussed.
Fair. Have you, since Marcy's law went into effect, I don't want to say this improperly, have you ever relied on Marcy's law not to execute a search warrant since it's gone into effect?
We've had conversations in the aftermath, but I don't recall not searching one solely on that basis.
So this is, if I'm fair, it is called using Marcy's law as the basis for not doing it.
Correct.
And it's the only one that you recall ever getting a direction from a prosecutor handling the case not to do it.
Pursuant to Marcy's law, yes.
Okay. Now, you, being the lead detective on the case, you also had an opportunity to try to interview Gage Grosskreutz about a month or so.
September 24th.
Okay. And certainly he's an important, in your mind at that point, he's an important piece in the case, right?
Correct.
And so you set up a time to get his statement. Fair?
I don't think I was one that set it up, but there was an agreed upon meeting time, correct?
Had you already reviewed, if you recall, his original statement to Officer Birch?
Yeah, I had.
And had you reviewed the video in the case as well, involving Mr. Grosskreutz?
Yeah.
So you knew that he had lied about dropping his gun, correct?
There was definitely a discrepancy between what the video showed us and what his original statement to Officer Birch showed.
And when you interview Mr. Grosskreutz in September, once you kind of get to the meat and potatoes about what had happened with him, he refused to answer your questions. Is that right?
He consulted with his attorney, and yeah, we did not get all of our questions answered.
Did you have an opportunity to confront him with the, as you describe them, inconsistencies or discrepancies with his original statement? Did you have an opportunity to kind of talk to him about those?
I attempted to, yeah.
Would he answer those questions?
No.
No?
No, he would not, sir.
So is it fair that at that point the interview just kind of ended? He doesn't answer your questions. I'm assuming that at that point it's over?
For the most part, it sounds correct.
You asked for permission or consent to look through his phone, is that right?
Correct.
And you did that for multiple people in this case. Did you not ask for permission?
Yes, we asked many people.
And there's actually a form that you use that they sign that grants you permission to do that, right?
Correct.
Okay. And in this particular case, did he ever give you permission to look through that phone?
No, he did not.
There was and you've heard about this skateboard in this case, the skateboard belonging to Anthony Huber, right?
Correct.
Do you know a person, when I mean know, are you aware of a person named Hannah Giddings?
Yes, I am.
And that is was Mr. Huber's girlfriend?
Correct.
You were informed that Miss Giddings had that skateboard. Is that right?
I'm going to object also for hearsay.
It sounds like hearsay.
I'll ask it to you this way. Did you ever request a search warrant to get that skateboard?
No, we never had a solid idea as to where it was.
Did you ever ask any potential witness if he or she might have it?
We were in communication with Hannah Giddings to try and obtain that skateboard, yes.
And I don't want you to tell me what she said, but based on the information that you had, do you think that you had a basis to get a search warrant for it?
No, because one of the aspects of a search warrant is you have to define where you're going to search, and without a solid location that would determine that, I wouldn't have enough for a search warrant.
Did you ever ask her to just turn it over?
Yes, we did.
Do you have it?
It's not in our evidence, and I don't personally have it now.
I'm sorry, that's kind of what I meant. You were asked by Mr. Binger about if anybody asked you to do any other DNA testing on that gun, right?
Correct.
Now, he can make that request, right? Mr. Binger, detective.
Correct.
Okay, did he ever do that?
No, he did not.
You were aware that Richie McGinnis had made statements about whether or not Joseph Rosenbaum ever grabbed or touched the barrel of that gun, right?
I believe based off his statement, he described it as him juking away from him, so there was no indication that there was contact.
So based on the fact that, well, I'll ask it to you this way. You didn't tell Officer Van Wee where to swab, right?
Correct, I did not.
And would there be any harm in swabbing the barrel of that gun looking for DNA?
When you say harm, the crime lab limits us to swab submissions on the front end. So traditionally, we have a standard operating procedure for firearms. So I don't feel comfortable saying harm. We have a standard procedure, and that's what we followed.
Okay. How about you wanted to look through Mr. Rittenhouse's phone, correct?
Correct. Either me or Detective Howard, yes.
All right, and I think the evidence or the testimony has been that the make or model of the phone that he had would have made that impossible at that point without him giving you the key or the code.
Yeah, the iOS, the software in the phone was beyond decryption.
And he voluntarily provided you information that unlocked a phone that you would otherwise not have had an opportunity to look at, right?
It came in through the attorneys, correct.
Okay. Now, you have described in your interviews with witnesses the night of the 24th and the night of the 25th as the most chaotic days of your professional life. Is that fair?
I'd include the 23rd, but 23rd and 24th.
So those days, 23rd, 24th, 25th, most chaotic days that you've had as a detective or a police officer even?
Correct.
So, it's Exhibit 39. You've seen this picture? Yes, it's an evidence. So, that gentleman, body's cut off, but with the camo pants on, that's Joseph Zeminski, right?
Joshua
Zeminski, right?
Yeah, on the left-hand side.
Right, and his wife is pointing at him. That's Kelly?
Kelly Zeminski, or Kelly Dunn.
Okay, fair enough. And he's, I don't know, you see that he's holding a pistol in his right hand?
Agreed.
Okay. Now, you see him, if you're comfortable saying this, you see him throughout the evening, throughout your investigation in various videos and things like that, correct?
Correct.
Conduct an interview with Mr. I don't want you to tell me what he said. Did you conduct an interview with Mr. Zeminski?
Yeah, Detective Howard and I interviewed him.
Did you attempt to locate that pistol?
Yes.
Were you able to locate that pistol?
No. Did you hear me?
Yeah, you said that you were unable.
We were unable to locate that pistol, correct.
Why wasn't it?
He had reported it stolen prior to our interview with him,
So it was gone.
according to him.
Now, have you have, is it fair to say as the lead detective or one of the lead detectives, I don't want to take anything away from Detective Howard, that you have reviewed all of the videos in this case?
I have not personally, no.
No?
No, between the two of us.
Split them up kind of?
He did the bulk of the video investigation.
Okay. Have you seen the video with Joseph Rosenbaum screaming, "Shoot me," and then saying the N-word?
I have seen that video, yes.
Okay. Have you observed, in a minute, this is 70. I'm going to show you what has been marked as Exhibit 74. Take a peek at that. Does that appear to be the backside of Joseph Rosenbaum?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Bring it up. Okay. Well, it's coming then. And does it appear that Mr. Rosenbaum, it looks like he's moving, right? Like he's walking?
Yeah, I'd like to see it in motion to say it with certainty, but
Is that a video or still? Okay. He's carrying in his, what would be there, his left hand, what looks like a chain, is that right?
correct.
Based on the testimony that you've heard, he didn't have anything to lock up that evening, did he? As far as you know?
As far as I know, no.
Okay. I'm going to show you Exhibit 75. And Judge, I would move 74. I don't think I did. No. See? 75, is that a picture of Joseph Rosenbaum there in the middle?
It looks like it, but the lighting's really bad. It almost looks like he has a red sleeve on him. So I don't want to say with certainty.
So you're not certain that that person right there with the mask over his face is Joseph Rosenbaum?
The mask is consistent with what I saw him wearing in the latter half of the night, but just based off the lighting there, I'm a little hesitant to say with 100% certainty.
Okay. Can you bring that back up for a second? Does it appear, to be fair, that he's holding a bag?
Appears so, yeah.
Okay, so, and we've heard a million times that Joseph Rosenbaum had a bag?
Correct.
Okay, so the bag fits and the mask fits Joseph Rosenbaum, right?
It does.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Rosenbaum was pushing lit dumpsters into the street? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's right. Tell me if you recognize or remember seeing. Rosenbaum who was pushing the lit dumpster in the street, right? You see him right there?
Yep, he's on the right-hand side of the screen, T-shirt on.
Okay. And so you see him, you're aware that he's screaming racial epithets. You're aware that he's got the chain. He's pushing dumpsters. You also see that he tipped over a porta potty, right?
I don't remember ever seeing that personally, but that's been relayed to me, yes.
You,
That's been relayed to me. I don't remember seeing it personally, though.
you didn't see this in your investigation.
Downstairs.
So you saw him pushing over the porta potty. Would you agree that his behavior is that of somebody who is acting like a rioter?
I'm going to object, Your Honor.
It's just a characterization the jury can decide for themselves
Can you read it?
to the extent that they need to do so.
Sorry.
Repeat the question.
You
one
don't
more
have to
time.
answer the question.
Okay.
Do you sustain the objection, Jeff?
I sustain the objection.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You also heard Carrie Ann Swart talk about him carrying an empty water bottle around with him, or multiple water bottles with him, right?
I remember hearing one. I don't remember hearing multiple.
Okay. And that you remember her telling us, meaning us in court, that she took it with him when he left, right?
He took it with him when he left.
Yep.
Yes.
And are you aware that there's been indications that homemade gas bombs were made from water bottles that evening?
I have heard that, correct.
Now, can you bring up the FBI video? So this is, what's the number on this? It's the same one.
It's the same as.
Do you have an objection if I just show this? So, and this is the FBI fixed wing video, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, go ahead.
It's up. It's up.
Okay, stop it. Now, we all, I think, have agreed, this blue circle is Joseph Rosenbaum, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So, to be fair, there's been talk about whether or not Mr. Rittenhouse was chasing down Mr. Rosenbaum. What you see here is Mr. Rosenbaum, and I'm not saying that he actually physically ducks, but he ducks in between two vehicles to let Mr. Rittenhouse pass him. Is that right?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. This calls for speculation, and I think the jury can watch the video and draw their own conclusions.
It really is speculative because you're asking the motive of the decedent as to why he took the path that he did, and you're asking the officer to comment on it.
Then I'll withdraw the question and rephrase it. Very good. You would agree that Mr. Rosenbaum steps out of the path that he had been traveling and in between two vehicles, right?
I'm going to object, Your Honor. Same objection.
No, overruled. I mean, it may be the same objection, but it's overruled instead.
So you see him step between the two vehicles, yes?
He is walking southbound, and then he ends up going south-southwest, and ends up I don't know if I'd say between the two cars based off what I'm seeing, but it's hard to tell with that blue circle, but he's definitely off the path he was currently traveling on.
Okay, and the other, play the video if you can. And when Mr. Rittenhouse passes him, he then comes out from the area by the two cars and is now back traveling this way, right?
Once the white dot is south of those cars, the blue dot appears to come north-northeast slightly, then continue southbound.
And Kelly Zeminski and her husband are right there, correct?
When you say right there, they're the green and pink dot, I would say.
Yeah, so they're right next to, or the two closest people to Mr. Rittenhouse and Mr. Rosenbaum, right?
At that time, it appears so, yes.
Okay. Did you hear, I don't know if it's been played yet, did you hear a portion of a tape? So we know Kyle Rittenhouse says, or you believe that you hear friendly, friendly, friendly. That's been discussed, right?
I haven't said that, but it's been said, yes.
What also was testified to by Detective Howard was gun, 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 you ain't gonna do shit, motherfucker, right?
You won't do, I think, is what is said, but something along those lines, yes.
And we know that's from Rosenbaum.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. There's no evidence on that.
He testified that it was that he said it.
That's different than we know. If he wants to ask this detective what this detective thinks, but ultimately it's a jury question.
You're saying that Detective Howard said that?
Yes.
That was his opinion as to who was the speaker.
Did you listen to that tape?
I hear those phrases. I don't know if I could confidently say who says what, though.
At this point, then, have you listened to the tape and have you heard the phrase, get him, get him, get him?
I have not heard that, no.
You haven't heard that?
No.
And that would be right before Joshua Zeminski shoots the firearm in the air.
Your Honor, he just answered he hasn't heard it, so how can he say when it happened? The detective just said he hasn't heard these words. The next question is, those words happen at a certain time. The detective's already said he hasn't heard it, so.
Start over.
So it's your testimony that you do not hear someone say, get him, get him, get him.
This question's been asked 3 times.
I want to make sure that is that true?
I have not heard that, correct.
I want you to listen to the tape and tell me if you can hear that. Do it again. I want you to listen to that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that?
I hear something along those lines, but I couldn't confidently say that's get him. But it's definitely the same phrase repeated 3 times.
And do you see Mr. Rosenbaum then chase Mr. Rittenhouse through the parking lot, right? You don't dispute that?
No.
Okay. Do you hear, and have you heard the videos where the one gentleman says, cranium that boy?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Okay, what does that mean to you?
I would assume it's someone talking about hitting someone in the head is my best guess.
Okay. And you observe Mr. Rittenhouse speaking to Mr. Grosskreutz, right, after the shooting?
Correct.
Okay. Would you describe Mr. Grosskreutz based on your observations of him running after Mr. Rittenhouse?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This is characterizing a video we've all seen. The jury can draw their own conclusions. Mr. Grosskreutz has already testified on this point.
Overruled.
Could you repeat what you asked, please?
Did you, based on your training and experience as a police officer, watching the videos, did it appear to you that Mr. Grosskreutz was chasing after the defendant? Chasing after Mr. Rittenhouse?
He was definitely running in the same direction.
Behind him?
Behind his path.
Okay.
No comment on the witness's answer, either orally or with facial reaction.
Very good. Thank you. What I want to ask you about, too, is there are multiple times, we've talked about the times that Mr. Rittenhouse has actually pulled the trigger, right?
Yeah.
You'd agree there are multiple times, based on the surrounding circumstances, that he doesn't pull the trigger, right?
I can think of one time for sure I've seen where, when you say he didn't pull the trigger, I don't. The gun may be pointed at someone.
You saw the video where the person, I showed it to Mr. Grosskreutz, the person runs up to Mr. Rittenhouse and then steps back, right?
Yes, I've seen
You saw
that. Correct.
And no shot fired.
Correct.
You saw other people that were kind of, it wasn't a 2 or 3 person chase. There were multiple people kind of around Mr. Rittenhouse, some of them brandishing weapons, correct?
There were people, and there were people that were armed, absolutely.
And those people who didn't attack him, he didn't fire at them, did he?
Correct.
The only people that he fired at were people that had either kicked him, hit him with something, or pulled a gun on him when he's running down Sheridan Road, right?
I would agree with that statement.
And after initially when he sees Gage Grosskreutz, you'd agree when Mr. Grosskreutz's hands are up, he doesn't fire.
Correct.
There's a person to Mr. Grosskreutz's, it would be his left, with a metal pipe. Do you remember that?
I know earlier we saw, you called it a wooden club. I don't know, I remember seeing a wooden, or fairly off the distance, there's a metal pipe, yes.
And so people who are armed, he doesn't fire at any of those people, does he?
Correct.
After the shooting, I counted, and I'm not asking you for the specific number, but there's multiple shots fired after Mr. Rittenhouse fires his last shot, right?
Correct.
I counted about 10, but there's multiple, right?
Agreed.
He never turns and fires in that direction, does he?
No.
So I think it was the video that Mr. Binger showed you, the drone footage. He showed you that on direct examination. Okay. Do you know where that came from? How you got it, or whether you got it? Do you know where it came from?
Someone turned it over to us.
And do you know when that was?
I want to say Friday late morning.
If you know, Hannah Giddings, was she in court while this hearing's been going on, this trial?
I believe I saw her today, but beyond that, I can't say with certainty beyond that.
So you believe she was here today?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Was there, don't take it as a criticism, was there any effort to get the skateboard, talk to her about that today?
No.
Thank you for your time.
Detective, this drone footage that we just showed the jury, the version that we showed the jury, did you and Detective Howard have any versions of that prior to Friday?
Not independently. We had, it was something attached to a news segment, so the video existed, but it wasn't in its raw form.
That was a news segment on Tucker Carlson on Fox News, do you know?
That sounds correct.
And that aired a couple days after the shootings, right?
I believe so.
And so ever since then, you've been trying to get the highest definition version of that video, is that right?
Correct.
And now we have it?
It appears so.
And after we got it on Friday, did you take a look at it?
A little bit, yeah.
And did you get a chance to look at it at home?
A little bit.
Okay. Did you were you able to zoom in and look at details of the defendant's actions in that video?
Yes.
What did you see?
So it appears that when the defendant comes around what we've been referring to as the Duramax vehicle, he deliberately, when I say deliberately, with caution and intentionally, sets down the fire extinguisher and then appears to bring his rifle up and point it in the direction of the Zeminskis.
Then what happens?
It's hard to tell based off where it was and based off what I was viewing it on, which was my work phone, so it wasn't the highest def. But it looks like Joshua Zeminski takes a couple steps towards him, and then at that point, the defendant starts to run, and then Rosenbaum follows.
Does the video also show the shooting, the killing of Mr. Rosenbaum?
It does.
And when you look at that video, how close does Mr. Rosenbaum appear to be to the defendant?
This is just going off of me looking at it again on a phone, but not closer than a few feet.
Not close enough to touch the defendant?
It does not appear so, no.
Now, I want to go back to the beginning of your testimony. You were asked about the process by which a criminal complaint was drafted in this case, and I think you said that that was done before the investigation was complete. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Why would a criminal complaint be prepared before the investigation is complete?
It's not atypical for that to happen, especially in a major case, a homicide. There's a lot of legwork that has to be done, even when you know who did it. So in this case, we obviously knew who did it, but we have to get all the facts. So we'll typically, in this situation, because there was an extradition issue, the defendant was in Illinois and we needed him up here to be heard for court. We had to get a warrant entered in to have that done, which is why you typically would do an early probable cause statement versus waiting until the investigation completed.
Are there also time limits in terms of how long someone can be held in custody pending possible criminal charges?
Yeah, I believe it's 48 hours.
Is it fair to say that after the complaint was drafted and filed with the court that you continued to investigate the case?
Absolutely.
And Detective Howard did as well?
Correct.
Did any of the subsequent investigation you did, any of the new information you gathered, change your original referral to the district attorney's office for criminal charges against the defendant?
I haven't read the criminal complaint in a long time, so I can't say with certainty, but I don't recall any changing the grand scope.
You were asked questions about Gage Grosskreuz's phone. Without having possession of his phone, did you have access to his Facebook Live video?
We had a copy, but I don't believe it was the original copy.
Again, it was one of these things where it wasn't the highest possible resolution of it?
Yeah, I think someone used like a screen capture software program and saved a copy.
Based on what you saw in that Facebook Live video, do you feel like, without having his phone, you knew what Gage Grosskreutz had done that night before the defendant shot him?
In the immediate time beforehand, not the rest of the night, though.
You were asked some questions about Anthony Huber's skateboard. When you watch the videos of the defendant killing Anthony Huber, were you able to see that skateboard clearly?
Yeah.
Are you generally familiar with skateboards yourself?
No.
Have you ever ridden a skateboard?
No.
Do you know anyone who has?
He knows anybody that's ridden a skateboard.
What is the relevance?
Well, I think the point is we need this exact skateboard, and I'm exploring his familiarity with skateboards in general. Because once you've seen one, you've pretty much seen them all. Fair enough. You also were asked about, and there's been references in the testimony to some video in which Joseph Rosenbaum says, "Shoot me," followed by the N-word, "shoot me," followed by the N-word. I don't know that we've actually played those videos, but do you have any idea what was leading up to that?
It appears there was some back and forth in the parking or the service station at the southeast corner of 60th and Sheridan.
Was he upset because someone had shot a gun at him? Or, I mean, pointed a gun at him?
It appeared he alluded to that, yes.
Speculative. Disregard the answer, please.
You were asked questions about this empty plastic water bottle. That Mr. Rosenbaum had in his bag that night. Is that right?
Correct.
Do you have any indication that Mr. Rosenbaum ever created any sort of chemical bomb or ammonia and bleach bomb or anything like that that night?
No.
Do you have any indication that at any point before he was killed by the defendant, there was anything in that bottle?
No.
When you see people carrying around empty plastic water bottles, does that suggest to you that they're about to commit a crime?
No.
You were asked some questions about the defendant's usage of his gun and the other people around after killing Joseph Rosenbaum, after killing Anthony Huber, after shooting Gage Grosskreutz. He gets up and he walks away from the scene, correct?
Correct.
You mentioned that there were some gunshots after that. What did the defendant do in response to those gunshots, if you know?
I don't recall.
Okay. I have nothing further.
You cross?
You turn around and look at that video for a second, if you would, Detective. I'm showing you 73. So this is the drone video that you say that you believe that you can see hold on a second. This video you think, make sure I'm right, you can see Mr. Rittenhouse pointing his firearm. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see Mr. Rittenhouse at this point?
No.
Okay. Play it for a second. All right, stop. Do you see him yet? We're 1 second in.
So, just so you're aware, you can't do it with this program as far as I know, but like on my iPhone, my work iPhone, you can pinch to zoom.
So what the jury gets to see, we'll never see that, right?
If there's a way to zoom it in.
Okay, well, this is what we have, and you'd agree that from this video that we have, what you've testified to is unobservable. Agree?
Off this view, absolutely.
Okay. Did you send the video to be enhanced in any way to like the crime lab or anything like that?
I haven't personally, no.
Do you know if anybody has?
I believe the prosecution
Is doing that now?
I believe so.
Okay. Sorry.
No, I'm talking to the district attorney.
Oh. So this is the video where hold on. That's Joseph Rosenbaum, right?
In the middle.
This gentleman right
Red
here?
shirt, black pocket.
Yep, this is him. Okay. Can you play the video, please?
Shoot me, nigga!
Behind him was who? It's not in the frame right now, but he was behind him a second ago.
Just can you go back just so I can confirm.
Sure.
I'm guessing it's Joshua Zeminski, but yeah, Joshua Zeminski.
Okay. Go ahead. Now, do you know, you have no idea why he's saying that, correct?
I don't know why he's saying that.
But we've established he's saying it in the guise or in the surroundings of a Black Lives Matter protest. Yes?
Agreed.
You had said that on this video that we don't get to see, you're able to see things in terms of how far away you believe Joseph Rosenbaum is, right? From
You talking about the
Mr.
drone
Rittenhouse.
video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know, in your training and experience as a detective, do you know what extreme stippling is?
I know stippling is related to when a gunshot occurs, but I couldn't say what extreme stippling is now.
What's stippling?
You're putting me on the spot here. It's I believe it's when gunpowder hits the skin, but
That you're close enough. So if somebody shoots, or if somebody is close enough to a gun when it's fired, the gases that come out of that gun burn the skin of that person, correct?
I'm going to object. This is beyond the scope of redirect, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I don't know enough about it to say that that's the textbook definition, but it's definitely indicative of proximity to a fired gun.
Based on your investigation in this case, Joseph Rosenbaum had stippling on his body, correct?
Correct.
Through your investigation, do you know if Mr. Rosenbaum had stippling on his hand?
I'd have to see the medical examiner's report to say yes or no.
You don't have a recollection of that?
I don't.
Do you have a recollection of where you observed it?
I remember seeing it in the preliminary autopsy results, but I don't remember exactly where now.
This is a bad question. When I say where, I mean where on his body?
I don't remember, no.
I don't have anything else. Thank you, Detective.
Any redirect?
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Trying to locate the full video that was just shown to the jury there. Could I just have a minute to see, see if I can find that?
She says she's complaining about what she sees outside, and she says, I'm going to go home and put pajamas on right away. Hey, just think, it's only about 45 days, and the days will start getting longer.
Dumbass!
as I indicated, the building is almost 100 years old, and last year they undertook a project to see how much of the damage could be reversed and what the cost would be. I was amazed.
Go ahead. No, we're getting set
No,
up.
I could go on for hours, as anyone who works here knows. But we'll.
I'm getting the rest of that video.
Okay.
There was an excerpt just played for under the rule of completeness. I'd like to have the whole thing played, so I'm getting that ready to go.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
Yep, it should be in a couple seconds.
Now, be quiet.
Oh my gosh, they really got the judge telling jokes now?
Okay, this is the Twitter Julio Rosas, the Fight at Ultimate Gas Part 1. Can we play that, please? Hear someone say, "Don't point your gun at me." Let's back up about 20 seconds, please. Play from there, please. Someone just now say, "Don't point your motherfucking gun at me"?
I honestly did, no.
Okay, let's play that back again, please. 10 more seconds, please. Go ahead. Did you hear it there?
I heard part of it, but
Okay, let's play this to the end, and then we'll play the next clip, which just to give the whole sequence. Now we're going to play part 2 of this. It's okay. And this should be part 2 of that. Those are going to be marked as Exhibit 70.
No. See.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Recross?
I don't.
Let me step down. What about it, folks? Time to go out into the dark of night? Please don't talk about the case overnight. Read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. Mrs. Natasa Mentig, is she here? I'll go over to her, and you might as well go up to the jury room and enjoy the evening.
All right, guys. Well, it looks like that's it for today. I'm going to be back here in, 3 hours and 14 minutes for our nightly news show. But I'm going to go chill for a little bit and, go do what I've been doing during the day. I got a lot of work to do still. So hey, what's up, Willow? So we will see you guys back here in 3 hours and 13 minutes now. So, you know what the defense attorney's saying to the DA right now? He's like, "Hey, dude, thank you for doing my job for me. You saved me a lot of time and effort, right?" I don't know why I don't know how that chick's been wearing her mask all freaking trial. Anyways, guys, all right, we'll catch you back here in about a little over 3 hours. I said. See you guys soon.